world gone insane. An upside-down civilization cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
Today's show is brought to you by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. It's also brought to you by Harrys.com. Why not visit Harrys, HARRYS.com, enter the coupon code Dana, and save $5 off your next shaving kit. We did it! It's the first episode of the Dana Gould Hour podcast for 2016, and we just missed January. But when I tell you I had homework this month, I had homework this month. But everything's getting turned in on time, and hopefully we'll have some really cool stuff to announce that I'll be doing in the not-too-distant future. Lots of cool stuff coming up this year. Not only more podcasts, a lot of live performance dates, some TV stuff in the Fingers Crossed stage, as well as the recording of my new special and my new album, tentatively entitled Mighty Mouth. More about all that in the future, where, as Elvis Costello sang, everything will be free. This is kind of a special episode. I, like everyone else, saw Star Wars, and I had very mixed emotions about it. Nothing to do with the movie, but my reaction to it was strange. And so I have, quite bluntly, my two closest friends in the world on to talk about it, Ken Daly and Rob Cohen. But since we know each other so well, I was afraid the conversation would devolve into a series of grunts and eye rolls, so we brought in a ringer, comedian Dan Telfer, who knows Star Wars like you know your mom, and whose CD, Ocean of Panic, you can buy with money at a store or on the internet. Dan is a Star Wars knowing motherfucker, and it's a deep dish conversation that goes to some very surprising places, and I really think you're going to enjoy it. Also, the always hilarious and entertaining April Richardson is here. You can follow her on Twitter at Apey, and her partner in crime and comedy, life and love, but not really, Chris Fairbanks, at Chris Fairbanks. Me? What's up with me? Well, the movie Southbound hits theaters, and I think VOD on February 5th. RogerEbert.com called it, quote, a cinematic miracle. Southbound is a terrific, tight, nasty little horror movie, and if you like that sort of thing, go get it. I'm in it, and maybe I kill people. February 18th, 19th, and 20th, I will be at the Comedy Bar in Toronto, Ontario. I will be at the Wheeler Opera House in Aspen, Colorado on March 11th. Coming up to that show. That's going to be amazing. And I will be in Portland, Oregon, land of food trucks, at Helium on March 24th, 5th, and 26th. Details and ticket links on the live appearance page at danagould.com. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the average price. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. They make an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Mattresses can often cost well over $1,500, but Casper mattresses cost just $500. For a twin-size mattress, only $950 for a king-sized mattress. Casper mattresses have just the right sink, just the right bounce, that's what she said. Two technologies, latex foam and memory foam, come together for better nights and brighter days. And all Casper mattresses are made right here in Murka. They have a risk-free trial and return policy. Try sleeping on a Casper for 100 days with free delivery and painless returns. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting Casper, CASPER.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. But please, if you see me in person, don't /Dana.
The Dana Gould Hour. An hour? You're right.
It is a cold, balmy. Well, it can't be balmy and cold.
It's a crisp.
It's a crisp winter night. It's a crisp, exotic. It's a crisp, exotic winter night in the puckered, dewy hills of Hollywood, California, high atop Mulholland Drive here at Falcon Lair Recording Studios. I am joined by three very distinguished gentlemen, two of which, I dare say, I speak to on a daily basis, which speaks poorly of them. Please welcome, and their taste and friends, please welcome the director of the documentary, the hilarious documentary, Being Canadian. He's also directed some of your favorite episodes of Marin, and a new father. Please welcome Rob Cohen.
This is the sound of my daily basis voice.
I'm also joined by very funny comedian, writer. He works at Midnight. Please welcome Dan Telfer.
This is the sound of my voice.
And then the other sucker on the end of the table, who is the only man, not only at the table, but in this home, in this domicile, which currently holds 4 adult males and 3 kids somewhere in the back watching God knows what, unsupervised. This man is the only one here to have starred in a Shamrock Shake commercial.
This is the sound of my voice.
Ken Daly.
I remember that from the commercial.
Now, Ken, you were in The Karate Kid.
I was.
You were in The Usual Suspects.
I also was.
You were in Solar Babies.
I was not.
I thought you were in Solar Babies.
No, I wish. I think Doug Benson might be in it.
You were in a Mac Davis
He's in everything.
holiday special.
I was.
Yeah,
it was a Mac Davis Star Wars themed holiday special before there were such things as copyright violations and trademarks.
It was Mac Davis's Christmas special from outer space, right?
Christmas Odyssey 2010.
Wow.
And
20? You mean, wait a minute, you mean the future, 2010?
Yes. And shot in 78. I think right after, 78, right after the summer of Star Wars. So I guess 77.
77 is the summer.
Anyway, and one of the lyrics I remember from a song was "Turkey a la Wookie."
Mm-hmm. They really did just steal it.
So they spent a lot of time on it.
People didn't care yet.
Woof.
Well, they still spent more time on it than the Star Wars holiday special.
Right. But they eerily predicted that Mac Davis would rule the galaxy with song.
As he does today, yeah.
Is he dead?
No, he's still around. He's still performing.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
He was
my father.
Was he a nice dude, Mac
He was
Davis?
a lovely gentleman. My mother was Bernadette Peters. My uncle was Ted Knight.
Oh,
wow.
The best.
Yeah, it was good.
And
I wish I could find a copy of it.
Did you talk to Ted Knight at all?
Yes, he was very not jovial in person. He was nice, but not on at all. He brought his dad every day. His older dad.
Man,
I was just when I travel among my travels, I was just in Austin, Texas, and as always, someone will come up to me with a copy of Gex to sign, which is the video game that Rob Cohen and Ken Daly and I worked on. Dan, you didn't know us then, but we were hot.
Yep.
we were the team.
Yep. Panty droppers. Supreme.
Operation Panty Drop was in full effect, and
I believe I played Gex. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The
Gecko.
Gex the Gecko. I was the voice, and we all wrote the banter. But the other thing,
you're not pronouncing it right.
It's Jax.
I think it's Jax.
First of all, it's
like
Geckos. Yeah.
Some guy.
Okay, now we have to unpack that.
There's some GIF nonsense going on with
the original GIF.
We worked this. No. We did this video game in the late 90s, I guess. And one day Rob is in his native land of Canada, which back then it was still a part of the United States, if I'm not mistaken.
It always will be.
He goes in the store and he goes, just to see if anybody's buying it. He goes, do you have that video game Gex, the thing with the gecko? And the guy goes, oh, first of all, it's Gex. And it's not a gecko, it's a dinosaur.
Oh, my God.
Completely.
Correcting just for the sake of correction.
Nerds ruin everything.
There was a guy, in Harvard Square in Massachusetts, there was the Cambridge Science Fiction Fantasy Bookstore. And there was a guy who worked in that store who looked, a lovely guy, I'm sure, but looked like if you drew a face and a beard on a toe. and he was and he looked like he had arms and legs, but just the lower half of each one.
Of course.
Right. And
Mojo from X-Men.
Exactly. And I remember being in the store one day, because I used to work at the Harvard Coop, and I'd come over and hang out. And I heard him one day going, well, if the apocalypse is upon us, my suggestion would be to read as much science fiction and fantasy as you can.
Good Lord.
And I'm just like, I am Elvis, and I look, I'm in the store, like I like all the stuff, but I'm just like, I'm like Elvis, I'm Tom Jones compared to you. And he had a car, he had a van, because he did have some sort of he had a van with extended pedals and everything, but it had a Beam Me Up, Scotty, there's no intelligent life here bumper sticker, of course. And his other bumper sticker, which I love, was "Make Mine Heinlein."
Oh my God!
Oh man,
hand carved.
How are those old?
That's
comic
the sound
book
of
stores?
panties hitting the ground.
Man, like those were simultaneously my favorite and least favorite places when I was a teenager. They were like, oh, that's where all my stuff is. And the creepy gatekeeper who doesn't want me to be a part of his club, who's intolerable to talk.
Yeah, when I lived in San Francisco, I was like, that was my attitude towards the Hate, because like the Hate had all the stores and stuff that I liked, but then I'd go to the Hate and I was like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
It's like rich kids pretending they're homeless.
Right.
It's back when nerdy was nerdy.
Yeah, before it was co-opted back when Comic-Con had comic books in it. That's how I
We had a store out here in Westwood was called Change of Hobbit. And
oh my God!
No, when did that go away? Because I think I might have been to Change of
probably
Hobbit.
Late 80s. And there was a water, like a sparklets machine, and it was labeled Nectar and Slime.
Wow!
Instead of hot and cold.
Which one?
Which is which?
I have no idea.
Nectar is hot, slime is cold.
They're both super cool sounding. I don't know.
That's actually the thought bubble above a hooker and a John at the end of their meeting.
What to charge?
Nectar, slime. So you were talking about Star Wars. Now, Dan,
yes,
what
sir.
year were you born?
1978.
Okay, so you missed Star Wars the first time around completely.
Correct. I was in my mother's womb when the first one came out.
Ken, Rob, and I saw it the summer it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it a week early.
How?
Because you were in a Shamrock Shake commercial. That's why.
Because I went to school with a lot of Hollywood parents.
Oh, nice.
And one of them was marketing for Fox, and they previewed the movie for us.
Did you see it at the Chinese?
No, at the Avco in Westwood.
And people go
And
bananas.
we didn't know what the hell we were seeing. We blew our minds.
Wow.
But
Did you Did you know it was?
I knew nothing about it.
No, but when you saw it, did you know this is going to? I'll never forget this movie.
Yes,
it was
I
that
was
good. Right
blown
out of
away. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I didn't see it opening day. Like the photo that I remember seeing was of Han Solo and Chewbacca, and I just it's kind of like Planet of the Apes. I'll go see it. Because he had the
bandolier.
The bandolier was just like the gorilla's bandolier from Apes. So I was like, it looks kind of like Planet of the Apes.
True.
For some reason, the expression "a bandolier of cat heads" just came into my mind.
I think you've named this episode.
You have to market that.
Bandolier of cat heads.
Mm-hmm. I saw it at the Stampede Drive-In in Calgary, and I remember they were showing two movies. They were showing Star Wars and The Sting, a reissue of The Sting, and we had an argument in the car.
Perfect combination.
People love those two movies together. We had an argument in the car, and everybody wanted to see The Sting except me. And so we got to see Star Wars, and it blew my mind. And it was with the crappy speakers that you would mount on your window because they didn't do it through the radio yet. And I just remember listening intently, and it completely freaked me out. And I couldn't believe this was happening in Canada. It was like, how is this happening here?
Nice.
It's insane. And when Luke got in his...
It's like when the McRib came.
Yeah. It's bone-shaped meat.
Tim Long from The Simpsons has a really weird story about when the McRib came, his town shut down. Everybody in town.
I believe it.
The
McRib's in town. The McRib's in town.
Exactly.
But who with the McRib?
Fellow Canuck.
Totally.
I saw it that summer. I remember it is our Beatles. I was alive when the Beatles were a band, but I missed it. I was 5 when they broke up.
Sure.
But Star Wars was it was this pop cultural defining moment where stuff was super different after it. And just like I remember sitting there, and when the Imperial Star Destroyer comes overhead, and that first, you'd never seen anything like that in a movie. That shot never existed in a movie. It was just mind blowing. And the other thing about it is Star Wars. The first Star Wars came out. It was at the height of the 70s. Yeah, the movie should have been made on cocaine instead of film to be cultural.
Well, it was for a couple of the actors, at least.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a good point? Do you think that Star Wars was as gritty as it was because they didn't have the budget and they didn't have the time?
Didn't no money.
For sure. It was a miracle they had enough to make the Death Star hallways. So then when it came to the garbage compactor scene, I was like, yeah, let's make this about 14 minutes. That sounds good. We can just float in some wet pylons for 14 minutes.
Some styrofoam painted gray.
And I feel like that's what people forget when they get critical of even the prequels. It's like, but there was literally a scene where they just stood in dirty water for 14 minutes. That was an amazing waste of time.
That's a shoe leather scene if there ever was. Let's get this right out of the way. It was never anything other than one movie.
Correct.
George Lucas is a liar.
Super
I don't care about him being a liar.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind it either. It's like all people that I think are great artists. Eventually, they take their things and they parent them to death. I mean, what a movie can't do, what a kid does, which is become 13 years old and 14 years old and individuate from its parents and have a life of its own, because otherwise the parents will strangle the child in the way that Gene Roddenberry strangled Star Trek and the way that George Lucas strangled Star Wars. Like, you can't control it after a while because you rewrite your own history in your mind. I had such weird mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it 9 more times before I have a real opinion.
I was 12. Star Wars came out, blew my mind. When Empire Strikes Back came out, I mean, they didn't know what to do. They had no idea. They had no idea what the next movie was going to be. He didn't have the stories that he said he had.
He had one story that he's been culling from this whole time. Like, even now, Starkiller is from his original draft.
Well,
but not that
get
he
into
took
Force
that,
Awakens.
But I'm just saying, he had the Jedi Bendu Journal of the Wills thing.
One of my favorite parts of Force Awakens is how much of it is literally them looking at Ralph McQuarrie.
It's all Ralph McQuarrie.
Art, but it's beautiful. Like multiple times during the movie, I saw an alien or a droid and went, holy shit, that is an exact drawing from 1977. Or 76.
From the Star Wars portfolio.
Yeah, that got thrown away or refined into C-3PO. Oh, that original C-3PO is in this cantina.
Yeah.
Well,
my God.
Oh, you're right, it is in the cantina.
Yeah, the one that looks like a Metropolis android.
That's
more.
right.
And that to me was so thrilling to even just see backdrops and be like, it's like, because McQuarrie was a big part of the creative juice that really brought that creative movie together. Oh, the whole original trilogy was
I really need to say this. We don't say juice here. We say juice. The creative juice. Would you like some orange juice?
The creative juice.
But don't you feel that, I know we're jumping around, but sure. To me, we saw it together. I'm pointing to Dana and Ken. And I will see it with you.
I will see it with as many humans as I can.
But Rob pointed to me and I went like this.
And then we just heard a very gentle gush.
Slime. Nectar or slime? You be the judge. We'll be right back.
Exactly. But I loved it because I thought that, as we've discussed, but we'll discuss now, J.J. Abrams had an impossible...
to discuss it.
Well, he had an impossible task. We discussed it in the movie, but it had an impossible task because it's the most iconic movie of many generations.
Yeah.
You're rebooting it after 3 terrible ones. And
I would say 4 terrible ones.
4 terrible ones. You have a huge budget. Every stupid thing, people now know box office numbers and all that other crap that they don't care about in the 70s. And he pulled it off and made it look great that you get excited like us, some sad old men. And if you're a kid, you get equally excited. So to me, it almost jumps the previous 3, but he has successfully rebooted something that was an impossible task. Whereas like the Raiders movies, they keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And this one is now a palate cleanser.
But they've because the Raiders movies have never escaped George Lucas.
Right.
Like
the alien skulls were his idea.
Nobody has been able.
That movie, Jesus.
Nobody
Lord.
has been able to wrest it away and go like, no, this is not your child anymore. It has to go out in the world. Force Awakens gave me a profound case of the Happysads.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it. And you know what? Life itself is one big happy sad. It is. You can't escape the sad parts. I was looking today at photos of my dear, dear departed dog, Bella, who I adored. And Bella turned 15 and Bella went to heaven. And you got to have it, both. You got to take it. You got to take them both. You can't run out of life and not experience those sad moments. They're going to get you.
The pedant part of my nerdery really was trying to come out and say, like, Han didn't have to die. That was a bad choice. But then...
I think that was the only way they got Harrison Ford to do it.
But it also...
Two things. It makes Kylo Ren an even more brilliant villain.
Exactly.
Like, you have a stake in whether he stays a villain, which, again, in any movie is crazy. Oh, is the villain going to stay a villain?
When I knew that Kylo Ren was... when they announced that Kylo Ren was Han's son, and Han's going down to the planet where Kylo Ren is... He's dead.
Absolutely.
Anybody who's ever written anything
too,
fictional
but they still toy with you.
And that's the other thing.
There's no way. It's like that. This can only go one place.
That's the only reason. That's the second reason. I mean that it's a great move because it gives this character so much closure. Mm-hmm. And Han, honestly, in this movie, sure, he dies. He's played more protagonist in Force Awakens than he did in the other three. He's barely in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, he's all over. It's his movie.
He's got 3 snarky lines in Return of the Jedi, and mostly he's shrugging. But there's so much Empire Han in this movie. Like, he gets a great Han. Little snippy back and forth with Leia about how he should never talk. And
that scene where, that's the only part of The Godfather Part 3 that I really liked. Was when Michael and Kay see each other again, because you want to see Luke and Han meeting again. People are close to you in your life, and it is something that I have not been able to wrap my head around it. I never will be able to wrap my head around it. It is life. It is how life works. There are people in your life that you are so close with that you talk to every day, all day, for years. And then something happens, and then you don't talk. Mm-hmm. And they go away. And what? How is this possible?
Yeah.
You're still there. But something has changed in your social fabric, and you don't talk. And yet, it's not that you don't think about these people, and they don't think about you. I'm assuming, you're both thinking about each other all the time, but you're not talking, and you're not in communication, and years go by, decades can go by, to see two people then come together again and go like, how are you? It's so weird. I just find it is one of the things that just perplexes me. I imagine it's how my parents feel about me, because I don't know, but like, I don't talk to my parents every day. I talk to them about once every 2 weeks. I see them a couple times a year. But, I was their kid. I can't imagine not talking to my kids every day, at least not talking to them every day.
Yeah.
I never go a day without talking. But the other thing that's interesting is that you talk about what the brilliant thing, the brilliant thing about this movie is it's not ours. It's for the next generation. And it worked.
The fact that we're allowed to like it and it's for them is a miracle.
The other 3 movies didn't work.
Here's the best statement of this entire interview, and I feel pretty confident about that. You lost your interest in Star Wars because they were providing a crappy product. Suddenly, they made a better sandwich, and you're like, you know what? This is not so bad.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, if you're biting into the sandwich everyone can't stop talking about, and it tastes rotten in your mouth, you don't need to go run around slapping the sandwich all the happy people's mouths.
It's here, taste this.
That's hilarious.
Perfect.
That's hilarious. No one can have sandwiches like that.
If I can't have a sandwich.
Yeah, I'm going to instantly tweet that.
That's hilarious.
Too many outlets.
So everybody enjoy your sandwich. It's El Nino, the baby. There's rain in the Southland. And I have to say, a brake light went out in my car because some water got in the light casing and shorted out the bulb. And that never happened during the drought.
Are we allowed to talk yet?
Nope. Oh. I'm going to talk for 95 minutes. I am joined by comedian extraordinaire April Richardson.
This is the sound of my voice.
And with April Richardson, please welcome male comedian Chris Fair.
This is the sound of my voice.
Now, Chris and April, you're working together on a television project that we're going to keep top secret until it comes out.
Oh, it's out. There's been a couple episodes. One of them was yesterday.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Almost Genius.
Almost Genius?
Yeah, but can I
That's
go?
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. See, it's very non-specific.
I want to go back to your brake light story really fast, only because I went to the dentist today. And
A natural segue.
It is. Because you were talking about how the rain is leaking into your light thing. I have a crack in one of my teeth.
In her tooth
And
case.
shit is like leaking into there. They were
Which
like,
tooth?
The second to last one.
Number 28.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I'm not 70. Why are my teeth cracking in half?
Love, I have had more dentistry than all of you combined.
I'll give you a run for your money for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so I got it. That just reminded me. So he was like, it's cracking and stuff is leaking into it.
So it's kind of like your taillight story, except horrifying.
Yes.
Because
Except it takes place in my mouth.
It takes place in
Yeah.
my mouth. Because I had gruesome TMJ. I ground my teeth down to where my jaw didn't fit into my skull anymore. They had to what's called a bite rebuild, which is basically you park a car in your mouth financially.
Right.
My 4 lower front teeth are the only teeth in my mouth that aren't crowns, and I'm going to say 85% of the other teeth have had root canals.
Wow.
I had to have my palate split when I was in elementary school because I had an underbite and an overbite at the same time. So I
Wow.
had to wear this.
I had mine
thing
split
that-
because I was playing a game of I bet I can split your palate.
I'm lost.
I've never had a cavity.
Oh, you
No, come on.
I have a filling in like every tooth.
I was taught to brush my teeth after each piece of
It doesn't-
Halloween
You
candy.
motherfucker.
It doesn't
It's-
matter.
It's genetic.
It's genetic. I have
porous teeth.
I have the proud teeth of the Irish.
Wow.
Which basically, my God-given teeth are made of the same material that Quake Hold is made of.
Right, you do. So you just have really strong enamel,
Yeah,
courtesy
yeah.
of
You
your
could
parents.
take out my tooth and rub it on the Sunday Funnies, and then it
And
would
it would
peel
be-
off.
You'd be able to read the paper.
Look at Popeye's
Yeah.
tall and skinny. Now he's
Totally.
short and fat.
Exact same with my teeth. They're so weak.
Chris, where are you from?
I'm from Montana.
Well, that's why you have good teeth.
Yeah,
There's
mountain man
like a
teeth.
Real American.
You know what? There is fluoride in our water. You can taste it. And when I was a kid, I did some experimental swish swash program where they would just give you straight fluoride and you drink it. Everyone got nauseous. It was just at my elementary school. And anytime I meet someone that went to Paxson Elementary in Missoula, Montana, they've also never had a cavity.
You're from Missoula, Montana?
Yeah.
As is David Lynch.
Yeah, he is indeed. And Dana Carvey and
All good, proud Americans.
Yes.
Hold on, though. I want to go back to at school. They just gave you a cup of fluoride.
yeah, we marched down systematically into the gymnasium, and we all lined up, and we knew we were going to get sick.
I'm sorry, it's gymnasium.
Oh, gymnasium.
And then
But wait a minute, you're in your 30s,
Yeah, I'm 40.
but you're telling me a story that took place in 1951.
exactly.
How was that possible?
Well, but
Exactly.
you especially got nauseous when you'd had to hide under your desk during the fake bomb.
yeah,
Yeah,
we had
well,
those.
of course,
We
of
had those too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Duck and cover will help you from the radiation
Right.
blast.
It's behind the times there. So even though I'm 40, it was World War
that
II
is-
when I was a kid.
But that is fucking crazy. And I remember doing that in the early
The bomb
70s.
thing?
We would have A-bomb drills in school.
Yeah.
Where you would just think at any time during the day,
Yeah.
and you would have to get under your desk.
And that was going to do something.
Yeah.
That was going
And
to
with the
save
kids,
you.
like, this way you can melt under your desk.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But you grew up with a theory that like at any moment they're going to drop a giant thermonuclear bomb on you.
When I was a kid, we were told Russians were going to.
Yeah.
The movie
Yeah, like in
Red
the 80s.
Dawn horrified
yes.
me.
Yeah, totally.
well, I might just die at any given moment. And also because of being Irish and from Massachusetts, we had plates. We had Jesus, John F. Kennedy,
of course.
and Robert Kennedy. All people murdered
Yes.
early in life. and you do get this feeling of like, if you're a good person, it's only a matter of time before you're shot in the head.
Yeah.
Or nailed
it's an honor.
nailed to a board. And
Right.
which is a good thing to remember, by the way. When people complain about how rotten the world is, which it is, I always like to remember we had crucifixion before toothpaste.
Yes.
Like
regularly.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yes.
They needed to, hey, everyone's teeth are rotting out and a lot of people aren't nailed to boards.
Yes.
Can I handle one fucking problem at a time, please? You read these stories about old tortures and stuff. It's like, who came up with putting rats on your stomach, then putting a brass bowl over the rats, and putting a bucket of hot coals on the bowl?
Is this a thing?
So the bowl would heat up and the rats would chew through your stomach to get away from the heat.
Holy
That's
shit.
like a Rube Goldberg.
Right. Right. It is a Rube Goldberg. It's like playing Mousetrap.
And it will only take 40 minutes. I'll be in the other room.
Why didn't they think up buttons before that?
Right.
That is so inventive. Where did you read this?
Yeah,
I
that's
was
horrifying.
at a museum. They'd lay out so bamboo would grow through you. They're just awful. Human beings are awful.
Yeah.
Human beings are just
Wait,
awful.
is it that museum in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I went with my
producer, Jeff
ex-husband.
Fox, sitting here so innocently.
Yes. And he's like a big fan. I went with my ex-husband and David went through it and I sat outside the whole time. I was like, I'll sit on the steps while you enjoy it because I knew I couldn't stomach it. He enjoyed it.
I also like in Philadelphia, they have the Rocky statue. Like, it's rare that like a movie, like a city honors a movie. I just went down to
Of a guy that lost.
Yeah.
I love all the Rocky movies though. I love them. I think it's great that he loses. I think that's part of the reason I like him so much is it's not just like at the end of every one, you're like, Rocky wins and everything's great.
But when you go to Van Nuys, there's no statue for with 6 you get egg roll.
That's true. Although there is a mural for the Karate Kid. I have a picture of it. Where
I'm
is
gonna
that?
come down
Where
on
was
you
Karate
like
Kid filmed?
I'm going to come down on you like a ton of shit, April Richardson.
I welcome it.
Ken Daly, who was in the other interview on this very podcast, was one of the kids in the bicycle gang in the Karate Kid.
No way.
Yeah, Ken Daly, famed child actor Ken Daly.
Encino. Yeah, there's a big mural on the side of a building.
Or Van Nuys could also have the Brady Bunch, could have a statue of the Brady Bunch going up some stairs.
Does somebody live in that house? I always see people taking pictures in front of it.
In Pasadena, there's entire streets that look like the Brady Bunch house that haven't been touched. I was on some reality
South
thing,
Pasadena,
70s
gorgeous.
themed reality thing, and they put these kids in a house together and took their cell phones. I'm like, wow, how did you find this house? Or I thought they had put money into making it look
right.
From
And
the
no, everyone is.
They just are there, and I don't know why.
This was a reality show where they made people live as if it was the 70s?
Yeah.
Did they drive an AMC Pacer?
I was a neighbor who played with nunchucks, and I would just come over and give a pop quiz, and based on someone losing, they would get kicked off the show and cry, and then I felt terrible.
Yeah.
Well, did you see season 2 of Fargo?
Yeah, that town was untouched.
The only thing about that I thought was strange was having grown up in the 70s. Mm-hmm. That took place in 1979. Nobody was talking about Watergate still in 1979. It was done. And Vietnam, I don't recall people talking about it that much by 1979. By 1979, the only thing anyone was talking about was
the birth of April Richardson, because that's the year I was born.
It was the Iran hostage crisis was the only thing that people were talking about in 1979. Right. And the making of a little film called The Empire Strikes Back.
That indie film.
Scrappy little indie film called The Empire Strikes Back. And a band called The Knack was teaching America how to snap its fingers one more time. The Knack's big hit, My Sharona, written about the woman that found this house for me.
What?
Sharona Alperin.
Are you serious?
Hollywood Realtor is my realtor.
Is that song about realty? I hope so. Please say yes.
She's one of the biggest realtors in L.A.
Amazing.
Wow. And she's the greatest. She's the best.
That's awesome.
And yeah, she was Sharona.
I would buy a house from her based on that alone.
Yeah.
Really? You like that song?
Yeah. Didn't they write that in a club in like what was that club in West Hollywood that used to be on the corner of?
Mr. Fist is in West Hollywood.
There was some
the fudged elbow.
There was some super huge club
Dunk.
that used to be. Do you know what I'm talking about? It
Grip.
used to be by where I live.
Clench.
It was really important.
Apple
I'm being
bobbers?
serious. I'm being serious.
Knob bobbers.
It was somewhere where a lot of bands got their start, and it was like at the corner of Santa Monica and Crescent Heights or something. Like, yes, the Starwood Club was a popular nightclub in West Hollywood. In 1973 to 1981, many punk bands and metal bands started their careers there. Yes. I'm not an idiot, you guys, is basically what this is proving to me.
No one's called you an idiot ever.
Yeah, no one was even close. We weren't even close.
I was in my head.
We just see human girl.
This is totally, yeah. So when I was watching that documentary, this is the club I was trying to think of.
here's the brilliant thing about the new movie, and then I wanted to get into some of the more emotional aspects of watching it. That was very strange.
Let's just all have a cry.
My overwhelming feeling at that movie was melancholy.
Oh, it's a very sort of dark, moody movie.
It had nothing to do with the movie,
but it's also going back in time and remembering.
That's it.
The nostalgia part. This
is the holiday. The holidays for me has been great anyway, and so I was in kind of an odd, funky mood to begin with. And then you see this movie, and when Harrison Ford and Chewbacca walk onto the Millennium Falcon, like I was elated and also crushed, because it's like I'm 15 again. Like I'm sitting in the theater watching these characters play in this environment.
Yeah.
But I'm not. And he looks like a shoe now. I look like Walter Matthau and Don Knotts had a baby, and it was just and it brought back 1980, really more than 1977. It really brought back 1980 for me, when I saw The Empire Strikes Back, and I was 15, and I was the perfect age, and I was, and the other, like the Blues Brothers was out that summer, and American Werewolf in London came out the next summer, and I would go to the video arcade ride my bike to the video arcade, Fun and Games, or as we called it, Scum and Drugs. It was just like, it was so evocative. And it would be like if the Beatles were all alive and they did a concert now and they were all 73, I think everybody would get really sad, because time is fleeting, and it's all a moment, and it's intangible, and it evaporates in your hand. It crumbles in your hand. To me, it reminded me of the Twilight Zone episode Walking Distance, where Gig Young walks into town, and he walks into his hometown during his own childhood, and sees himself as a child, and his father recognizes him, and he's like, "You can't be here.
Yeah,
you can't." That's how it felt.
I saw it on opening day with my 7-year-old daughter, and if you have a 7-year-old daughter, I can't recommend a better scenario than seeing this movie for the first time with a 7-year-old, because it was great.
She's not into it.
Well, she was super into it. I mean, she's seen the original trilogy. I haven't allowed her to watch the prequels, but she's seen like the Clone Wars cartoon, and I give myself plenty of credit for that one. But it was really great to have all those nostalgia chords strung deep in my gut space, but then be like, oh, you know what though? This should be handed off to you also. Like, in addition to me enjoying this,
to share.
I'm glad this is so good, and I'm watching you get really into it. It was a huge, fucking bummer during the original trilogy to have my very intelligent 7-year-old keep turning to me and be like, I love Princess Leia. And then when the movie's over, just be like, does the next one have more girls in it? Her, I didn't even know Rey was going to be the protagonist. For her to watch this girl go in there and just annihilate everyone and have multiple crazy lines like, "You will take nothing from me." My daughter's jaw hit the floor when she said that, because she was like, she was like, I love her better than Leia.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I simultaneously am a very critical human being, and I get why a lot of people hated this new movie, but it was.
I don't.
Well, I get, because they're nerds, and because Ken and I have actually been talking about this movie for months, but so he's heard a lot of this before, but so many nerds took ownership of it when they stopped making the original trilogy. I remember what it was like to be a nerd in 1989 and be like the only one in my school with a Star Wars shirt.
And it's amazing to remember how
that ambassador, you feel so alone. Like, this is mine. Not even Lucas could take this away.
It fell so far out of favor. Star Wars was beyond over.
Yeah.
It was just done.
But for me, it was in 97 when the special editions came out. I'm like, oh, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to.
That was the worst.
He just wants to fucking ruin them.
My favorite moment of any of the special editions was meeting Matt Weinhold at Grauman's Chinese Theater to see A New Hope special edition, and I was going to meet him there. And oddly, we also saw Force Awakens. He calls me up. He says, "Okay, I'm in line. I am in full costume. I said, okay. And because there's some people wearing costume. And Matt's waiting in line, and he has a piece of cardboard around his neck with a string on it, and crudely written in magic marker, Princess Leia with an arrow pointing to his head.
Hilarious. And that was the best part of the movie, was before you watched it.
I liked the fact that I didn't mind seeing the Death Star fight improved. Nothing else.
The other
like that was like I get that.
Besides calling Episode 4 A New Hope, the only other thing I approved of was cleaning it up to make it look nice.
Yeah, cleaning up was nice. I didn't care about it.
But adding characters like spaceships.
No, that's all awful. That's all awful, and it's been well tilled soil.
To me, like the special editions were when Ken's heard me tell this analogy already, but like. It was like, oh, you liked my Knights of the Round Table? You liked my heroes that I made for you? Well, here's Lancelot's head on a pike, and here's Galahad's head on a pike. And so the king went fucking batshit and destroyed everything for me. And then when the prequels came around, I was like, oh, the king's just writing some crazy shit on the wall of the castle with a crayon. You've already ruined the hero thing for me. Like, you can go ahead and write some weird-ass story about, like, people racing pods.
That to me, it's more of just a completely fascinating story of like how somebody surrounds themselves with yes men and abdicates all of their abilities. And I don't think it's not specific to George Lucas. It's really, really common, but it is, so many times it's amazing. And we just go like, wow, you're awful now.
Yeah, but look at it just to take a different stance. I know you're pointing at me that I'm awful.
That's because Marin wants to have a CGI character in season 3, right?
When Paul McCartney had to run his songs past John Lennon to get them recorded, he would have never thought to go, simply having a wonderful Christmas time. There's a lot of, it's like when
that song is like the nadir of the dark holiday spirit to me.
There's a story of, I'm not going to say who it was because I don't have permission to say his name, but a guy I know was do you know this story? He was in a car in high school or about to get a blowjob and from his girlfriend, and someone's knocking at the door, somebody ringing and it was so peppy, like it just killed the moment, and Paul McCartney cost him a blowjob.
Boner killer. I first of all,
that was Tan from Jack and Tan.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. It just made that story great. Just using 2 other movies as an example. For me, I love the Blues Brothers. And Back to the Future, obviously, people love Back to the Future.
No, you love Blues Brothers 2000.
Well, that was my point with that is one of the many amazing things that blew my mind about Blues Brothers, and I've seen it easily 40 times, but I remember seeing it the first time in Calgary. Couldn't believe how wild this movie was. It was such an American movie, but it was also, these guys were having so much fun, great music that I wasn't exposed to growing up where I grew up. Yeah. The whole thing laid out exactly the way that experience was for those guys. Like, it's of that time. Blues Brothers 2000, you just know it's like, well, we just put on a hat and come up with another story. And I know that guy's dead. Right. Back to the Future, it's the 30th anniversary this year or last year. People went bananas. Like anything Back to the Future, when I saw it at the Hollywood Bowl with the LA Philharmonic doing the score, people were openly weeping.
It's so insane to me.
But it was the day from the movie, from the sequel.
Yeah, but it was brilliant because...
But like Back to the Future came out in 85.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago.
I was 21.
Yeah.
And like, I went to see it, but it was just like, yeah, it's funny.
But it's where you are in your life.
We thought Crispin Glover was funny. Like, that was the thing that I can remember seeing Back to the Future with Dan Spencer, my roommate in Boston. He was like, yeah, that guy was hilarious. But I was already a stand-up. Like, I was a working comedian by that point.
But I think,
like, yeah, that's it wasn't like, to me, it was just like I didn't get the ginormous jizz fountain that was Back to the Future.
But don't you think, this is just my opinion, but don't you think that the cynicism or irony that people look at stuff now, like that when the trailer for the new Star Wars movie came out and Han Solo said, Chewie, we're home.
Yeah.
People went crazy in a great way. And it was brilliant marketing. But at the same time, he's making a statement to the people old enough to remember it. But at the same time, it makes sense in the trailer for marketing. And I think that was the genius of this movie because they had to straddle this very weird line. Yeah, and they put him in perfectly.
And
perfectly.
it is saying Star Wars is back.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
The way you like it.
Exactly. And do you buy the story about the first line of the film is very intentional?
Oh, right.
When Max von Sydow goes, "This will start to make things right."
I think so. I
mean,
such a kick in the balls. There's a lot about this movie that feels very deliberate.
Here is a documentary that I just saw that is the 1970s in a bottle. I think it's called Being Knievel or Being Evil or something.
From Butte, Montana.
EVEL. If he really had courage, he would have jumped his lapels. There are some massive mid-70s collars in that.
I have to say.
Nothing encapsulates the 1970s more than the entire concept of Evel Knievel.
Yes.
And I had the scramble van, everything up to about 76.
Wasn't he like his own hype man? Like, wouldn't he call and pretend to be his own manager and stuff like that?
He was a brilliant showman. He was P.T. Barnum. The entire country was obsessed with this guy that would just every couple of months almost kill himself.
Yeah.
Every couple of months he would jump over something and we were freaking out.
Crash.
Right.
Fountains at Caesar's Palace. Crash, breaks every bone in his body.
Because
Snake River Canyon, crashes. 13 buses in London, crash.
I didn't know he had that bad of a batting average.
Yeah.
People are breaking his records now because the bikes weigh literally 1/8 of what his bike wore. The whole story of Evel Knievel jumping the Snake River Canyon is unbelievable. He needed to top himself, and he was like, I'm going to jump the Grand Canyon on a motorcycle.
Right.
He just said it, and they go, okay. It was always shown on ABC Wide World of Sports.
Right.
So people would go like...
That counts as a sport?
But people would watch.
Right.
So he goes to the Department of the Interior, because that's national parkland. I want to jump it. And they go, okay.
Yeah, they can't really say no, can they?
Well, a week later they go, actually, no, you can't.
Oh.
So he finds another canyon in Idaho. He finds Snake River Canyon. And he realizes that he can't get over it on a motorcycle.
Of course.
Because it's a mile across. So he hires a team of rocketeers that build him a rocket.
Like a rocket motorcycle?
A little rocket. I remember this really, really, really clearly because it was right when I started 5th grade. And it was just like, that's the only thing anyone was aware of, was that Evel Knievel was going to jump the Snake River Canyon. Now, part of the entire allure of Evel Knievel jumping the Snake River Canyon, he's in a rocket sled. And when he takes off, he's going to pass out.
Because he's going to go so high?
Because he's going to pull G's that the human body can't withstand. He has zero experience. Pulling G's.
He didn't go to space camp or anything.
Nothing. And the guy that builds it's like, you need to do this. You need to learn how to do it. I'll be fine. And he's just leather. You're going to take off, pass out. then after like a minute, you're going to come to.
How was he landing?
And
just on a series of pillows?
And when you come to, that's when you pull the chute to land. And they interview him and they're like, so now you're going to pass out and then you're going to come to and pull a chute? Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
I have to watch this. I
think it's going to be fun.
Actually, I can't watch it because I can't watch people break things.
There is a...
well, then don't watch this. But so then they announce, okay, so everybody shows up. A bunch of high school marching bands show up. People camp. It is like Close Encounters, like when they think the flying saucer is going to come. The 1970s shows up at Snake River Canyon. Everybody's in flares. Everybody has a shag haircut. Everybody's wearing a Keep On Truckin' tank top.
Yes.
Everybody looks like Mark Hamill on Tatooine. It's all these high school marching bands and 4-H clubs and a bunch of bikers.
Because he's one of their own.
Well, actually, he and the Hells Angels hate each other. Oh. That's a whole other story.
Oh, okay.
Because he's American. He was like the Kid Rock of 1975. He was like, these guys are dogs. He did not like the Hells Angels. They attacked him when he jumped in Cow Palace.
They're like anti-authority.
Yeah, and he's
like,
Mr. America.
Yes.
He's John Wayne on a motorcycle.
Totally.
Yeah. But all these Hells Angels show up. All these other bikers show up. And these high school marching bands go through these throngs of bikers and they just attack them.
Wow.
These bikers just attack these high school marching
High schoolers?
Bands.
Why?
Yeah. There's this interview with this guy like, yeah, they took my tuba, the stuff.
Oh my God, I have to see this.
Yes, totally.
And then they had like rows and rows and rows of porta potties. They just overturned them and set them on fire.
Wow.
And that's why he first jumped a row of flaming anything.
Yes.
Out of necessity.
Yes.
Right when he is rounding the corner. Look at all these porta potties. Better jump it.
So 2 days before he jumps, it's just hell on earth. It's just a dystopia. There's no rules. And finally, there's just this flimsy fence between the people and the Snake River Canyon. And they realize people are just going to fall in. It's just going to be like lemmings. Someone's going to run, and they literally have to pay the Hells Angels to guard the edge of the cliff.
No way.
So there's not a stampede of people
over the cliff.
They were like, what, can you put down those stolen tubas and help save these people that
Yes.
you just
You're
gave
just trying to find
children whose eyes you just blackened?
Exactly.
Yes. Well, what happened? Did he land it into the crowd?
The rocket takes off. The accepted belief is there was a malfunction and the chute opened immediately.
Oh.
So he just got up to the top and then floated down and hit the bottom of the canyon and lived. And the other theory is that he just lost his shit and pulled the parachutes and fuck this baloney.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. They started to think maybe not a lot of thought went into it when they realized his pants were filled with feces. Well, he made that decision first.
He did a lot of crazy shit.
Did they talk
so
about
the glory
Butte, the
is
town
just
of Butte?
attempting the shit.
Yeah.
And
it's a horrifying town to this day.
It is?
Well,
How so?
Oh, it used to be a mining town where millionaires moved. I think there was going to be a World's Fair there. There's not even 1 million people in Montana now, and at one point in Butte, there was 150,000 people, and there's mansions there that now students rent because there's like a technical school there. All the frat houses there are these beautiful mansions, but the downtown is just drunken bar brawls at noon.
Yeah.
And I had
Is it like Detroit or something?
It is just, everything's closed.
It's just Mad Max.
And a lot of drinking, and it's easy to imagine. And it was always, my dad said it was like that in the 40s.
Right.
So it's easy to imagine him.
It's always been rough.
Showing off in a dirt parking lot, jumping a motorcycle over a cop car.
Because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
How far is it from where you grew up?
He'd go to rodeos and say, I'll jump. I think some rodeo guy broke his neck or something. There's some George Hamilton.
Yeah, the movie.
I got for 99 cents.
I think it's
Walmart.
I think it's called Evel Knievel.
It's really good. It's bizarre. Yeah. There's weird jokes in it, and
then Evel Knievel made a movie starring Evel Knievel playing Evel Knievel called Viva Knievel.
Wow,
which is fantastic. This will shock you. In fact, you're sitting. Okay. I didn't want anybody to hurt themselves when I dropped this.
Okay.
He's not a great actor.
Oh, I just Knieveled my pants.
My socks just blew off.
I just awful canoffled my drydies.
No, it's beautiful.
They don't get this in Butte.
No, they don't get podcasts there. They don't have the right wires. In Butte, they have it's just like, we'll deal with it later. That's super fun. It's like a pit that slowly is leaking. I think just arsenic or something. Some byproduct of mining.
The lake where all the poison is made.
Yeah, it is a reservoir, and I think they lined it with trees. But birds just fly down, and once they just dissipate and die.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, there's just dead birds in it. It's that poisonous.
That's like Salton Sea.
Yeah.
The beach, I'm doing air quotes because it's not sand, it's just like fish and bird skeletons that you're walking on.
Why is that poisonous?
It's the same thing because it's not the same thing. Yours was mining. The Salton Sea was supposed to be a resort town. Like they were going to make it a resort town. And so they somehow brought in all this water to water all these great homes that were going to be there or whatever. And then, and water all the farms. Mm-hmm. And the runoff became Salton Sea. The runoff from all that shit, so like all the dirty, gross water became this lake. And the same thing, like it would just kill all the fish in it and kill any birds that tried to like hang out in it.
Is there any water in the Salton Sea anymore?
Yeah.
It's just a giant.
Yeah. But it's like gross. It stinks. It smells like nothing you've ever smelled. It's just the weirdest place I've ever been. It stinks. You're just crunching on fish and
Would you
bird
say
bones.
It stinks worse than my dog?
No, I would never say such a thing. Horrible. Human beings are great, aren't they?
Yeah.
We really take care of our earth.
I just like that they've done nothing about it. I wonder why Evel Knievel didn't ever jump that reservoir. There's poison below me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need sharks.
Exactly. I'm going to jump poison. He jumped 13 buses in London and didn't make it.
Wow.
Hey, did he what? Give the shorter list. Give me the list of times he did make it.
Well, interesting. Then he came back and was like, all right, I've got an idea. 14.
Oh, no.
I'll jump more. And I don't know how it happened.
Cool.
But he did it.
Did he have insurance? Did anybody insure Evel Knievel?
That's a great question. His bike cracked in half.
It was a Harley Davidson. I think they had
just off the
bikes
rack
available.
Yeah, and he had just crazy Elvis Presley white leather jumpsuits with. I mean, him and Elvis were really at their peak at the same time. They were like the cultural white leather jumpsuit bookends of the 1970s.
That's true.
Sense. I was Evel Knievel for Halloween and went up at the Improv. I thought all the comics were dressing up. I was the only one.
No.
I had a helmet, and everyone heckled Elvis. They were calling me Elvis.
Yeah.
Just because I had flared.
He hates Elvis.
Flared pants. I don't hate Elvis.
We've gotten arguments about it before.
I really
don't let him backpedal.
I like Elvis Costello, his music. I listen to it all the time, and I enjoy him. So I prefer Elvis Costello's music.
He's being way nicer now than he has been to me in the past about this subject.
Now, who sang Mama Little Baby Love Climbing? That's an Elvis Costello. Well, when Elvis Costello came around in 1977, and it was right after Elvis Presley died that he really broke and be like, you cannot be named that.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
You have to give him
take
credit
that holy name
for his massive balls.
Oh, of course. I'm not dissing him at all.
No, I know you're not, but it's just like you forget in retrospect that calling yourself Elvis anything back then was really
for sure.
ballsy.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm going to change my name to Boris Love. If I ever become a horror movie host, which is the only job for which I am properly acquitted.
Sure.
For years, I've tried to come up with a good name. I think I've got it. Grim Doings.
That's fantastic.
I like to go by Jarvis Mayhem.
Oh, I love that.
It's just a guy. You don't mess with
If
it.
Svengoolie ever wants to retire, and I don't want him to retire because I love what he does, I watch him every week.
Grim Doings.
When you want to retire, 30 years from now, I'll be Grim Doings, nephew of Svengoolie.
Mr. Christopher Hardwick and we were driving through Texas because we did Dallas, Austin, and Houston, and we just drove to all of them. We just rented a car.
I was just in Austin, a beautiful city, surrounded by Texas.
That's where I started comedy.
We passed an exit. That's my fake name forever because it was an exit for Angus Mustang. That's what I'm checking into hotels under. Angus Mustang.
That's everything Texas cares about.
Yes.
Steak and Ford rear-wheel drive shitty
Angus
cars.
Mustang.
Cows and horses. There is that weird, very American mentality. We see it now in the political scene. Guys are really eager to swing a lead pipe. It never goes away.
That's why we're going to have a President Trump.
No.
I could be wrong. There are more people that don't want to swing a lead pipe than do want to swing a lead pipe. They're quieter.
Yes, that's my problem.
So you don't
with
hear about it as
Yes.
much. People don't vote their anger, they vote their hope. At the end of the day, people like to vote for something more than against something. That's why John Kerry lost to George Bush, because John Kerry's like, I hate George Bush more than any of you. Well,
Right.
people don't really like to vote for that. As an organism, Americans are by and large very decent and optimistic, but we do have this crazy fist aspect to us too, that let's line up and set fire to porta potties.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad Trump is there, because he's just distracting. Everyone's voting for him. He's like taking it away from all these other scary Republican candidates.
I thought Ted Cruz was Darth Vader. Turns out he's only Grand Moff Tarkin. No one even knows.
Exactly. I don't know who Grand Moff Tarkin is, but I do.
Okay, let's just wrap
I
it
get
up.
what you were saying.
Wait, no.
Grand Moff Tarkin was Peter Cushing, who was in charge of the Death Star.
Oh, of course.
And if you watch the original Star Wars, Carrie Fisher walks into Peter Cushing and Darth Vader and says the following line. And it was apparently one of the first scenes that she shot. Governor Tarkin, I should have expected if I'm not doing a lot. It's not word for word, but it's close. I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. And it was only a couple days after that she decided maybe I won't do a fake English accent.
Right.
And so in the rest of the movie she kind of doesn't have that accent.
Oh,
Right.
that's great.
She kind of has an English
That's
accent
terrific.
at some point.
I just, the first scene in the movie, she was doing kind of a Sir John Gielgud.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Never mind.
I was talking to my manager, who's a producer, a really He's a manager that actually is a producer, and he used to work at Warner Brothers, and he knows this business well. And he was saying, like, here's the genius of what they did, because the next movie is directed by not J.J. Abrams,
Rian Johnson.
Yeah, and it's going to be different. It might be darker. It's going to be grittier. And I think what Disney did when they saw this was like, this is a universe that we can own and go anywhere in it. And they did that with Marvel too. It's like, the way that media is now, it's like, what universe do you own? You own the DC universe, you own the Marvel universe, you own the Star Wars universe, you own the Hunger Games universe, whatever universe you own, and then you can run rampant in it and do anything you want. And that's how the tentpoles work.
I mean, Disney's been genius with
they're unfucking-leavable.
Yeah, and I remember being a teenager.
Well, Lucas doesn't think so.
Well, I think Lucas is also thinking about Disney in 1977, the way he thinks about everything being in 1977. Yeah. Disney is a completely different company than it used to be.
Lucas not liking the movie is like your dad looking at your shoes when you're 23 going, right. I remember walking into my house when I was like 23, I had a pair of creepers. Mm-hmm. What the hell's that?
But then to criticize it for being commercial is fucking insane.
I don't even pay attention.
It's a movie, so immediately, of course it's commercial.
No, but Lucas...
Did he care?
Calling them white slavers and
yeah, in the Charlie Rose, madness. He said it was white slavers is like selling his children. He said all sorts of horrible things. And then he backpedaled.
I did see that, but I didn't know it was specifically about.
It's like, those are my children. I get to beat them.
He had to release a statement the next day saying, "I love what Disney did, and I didn't mean any of it that way."
Oh, by the way,
but he clearly did mean it that way. Like it was like.
By the way, I am sure in his contract when they wrote him the $4 billion check, there is a thing that says, you can't shit on these things. Yeah. I bet Disney has at least 2 lawyers. And I'm sure that somebody showed up and said, George, hi, just looking over page 8,021 of your contract. And he had, but so what they did with The Force Awakens is we need to reintroduce this world. We need to
it's amazing, but
hit it. We need to reestablish this because, in my opinion, they're saying there hasn't been a good Star Wars movie since 1983. I would say there hasn't been a good Star Wars movie since 1980.
I will defend Jedi to the ground.
I wrote the article 50 Reasons Return of the Jedi Sucks with
I've heard
with Dan Weber. So
I've come about on Jedi. I used to hate it, and now I'm around on it.
Well, that's one of us.
Do you have the despecialized version with all the stuff taken out where it's still in HD? I highly recommend.
I only have Star Wars and Empire. Here's the brilliant aspect of The Empire Strikes Back. George Lucas did not have all of the power that he would come to wield. And he didn't want to direct the movie, but thought that he could hire Irvin Kershner and make Irvin do everything he said. And when he started to do that, Irvin said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, and made the best Star Wars movie. I mean, which is the only story you need to hear is that Princess Leia says I love you and Han Solo says I know and George Lucas said no, he has to say I love you too. And Irvin Kershner goes, no, I know is a funnier line. It's much better. It's more in character.
It's more memorable. It resonates.
Yeah, so he was like, no, I remember watching that. I remember 1980, opening day, sitting in the theater. She says, I love you. He says, I know. And I burst out laughing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a great line. It's a hugely great line.
Yeah. I will give Jill Lederman full credit on this, but that's what it says on the inside of our wedding rings.
I love you, I know.
Hers says that, and mine says I know.
Wow.
Her bit, completely her bit.
Wow. And that's your wife?
My human wife.
Your human wife.
Yeah.
And Dan, you have a human wife.
I do have a human wife.
And Ken, you live with your girlfriend of many years.
Girlfriend, yeah.
The beautiful Rebecca.
Yeah. Yes.
And I am
super into the new Star Wars movie.
Super great.
My wife does not like Star Wars. She hates Star Wars. She tried the first 2, thought Empire was the most boring thing she'd ever seen in her life. And she's a very dry British person. She's got a joyful side.
But let me throw some controversy into this, just to mix it up. If somebody goes to the new Star Wars movie with any expectations beyond straight entertainment, they are making a mistake. Because
I agree
it's strictly
completely.
a movie, whether you're a kid or an adult, you're old or you're young. It's literally just an entertaining film.
When I think of straight entertainment,
I
think of Ultimate Fighting.
But that shot of like the X-Wings flying in, or just simple things that any movie's going to have. It's going to be a World War II movie. There's planes. Yeah. Any simple stuff, you just go, that is so cool.
Yeah, there's a couple things, and there's a couple things that made me roll my eyes, or a couple things that made me roll my eyes.
What movie doesn't do that?
Exactly. That's my point.
Oh my God!
Stuff in Star Wars in 1977.
But it is very hard to come in without expectations because you've built it up for however many years you've been a Star Wars
But here's
fan.
the thing. So this is the point I was going to make, and I forgot about it. And it's not my point; it's my manager's point. It's quite brilliant. So what Disney did was, all right, we're going to create this world, and then we're going to have these standalone movies. And to me, the movie about the rebel spies that stole the Death Star plans sounds so good. We need to reset this universe. And what they did was they remade the trilogy in one movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Act 1 is Star Wars. Act 2 is The Empire Strikes Back, and Act 3 is Return of the Jedi.
Ray goes through all the Joseph Campbell shit in one movie.
And it is fucking brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about Disney's a giant corporation, and that was a stroke of genius. And if it feels...
They're a very different corporation than they used to be.
Nobody's noticing this.
But if it feels familiar to you, if it feels like kind of a retread, that's because that's what it is.
But the complaint is that it's a remake of A New Hope, and it's not.
Right, that's
it's
lazy.
The trilogy.
And
it's the whole trilogy.
And the stuff they
very
borrow
laid out.
is very archetypal and then off to the side parallel. They don't literally have... Like when they show Starkiller Base is a planet that's 10 times bigger than the Death Star... Everyone in the room groans. They literally have a shot of Admiral Akbar, rolling his eyes. It knows what it's doing.
But it's also to complain that it's like Star Wars is insane. Because that's like complaining that a James Bond movie is like James Bond.
Yeah, I agree.
Or Halloween is like Halloween. Or it's a series
It
of
is what it
movies.
is.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Well, that was like when I argued, I believe, with you, Robert Cohen, about The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro.
Oh, boy, that though.
What a night.
See, I loved it. And to me, it's a movie called The Wolfman. In the movie, there's a man that turns into a wolf. Game over.
Wait.
The movie delivered what it told you it was going to
deliver. Oh, it did? Okay, I just want to make sure it delivered, because if it promised that and there was no Wolfman.
Like that. I defend that movie. I like that movie. And it has a scene where the Wolfman slaps a guy's head off.
Right.
And I feel like by saying something like that, I think you also kind of put the smackdown on people who jerked off to their own sadness when the prequels came out.
That's what you were doing. That's what I was doing when you guys came over.
I knew it.
That's why Morrissey was playing.
It was a little. It was worse. It was This Mortal Coil.
Well, it segued into Morrissey eventually.
He walked into a bleak time.
You said you were making pancakes.
You should like horrible movies. If you don't like horrible movies, you're missing out on 99% of movies. It's great if you want to have these high standards, but don't let those high standards dictate this weird structure and language to your heart and your glory.
But you guys will both get this. Whenever people really go off on, let's say, Star Wars or Spectre or whatever you want to say, the first question I always have is, how many kids do you have? Yeah. Because at a certain point, a movie is a great way to spend 2 hours. In a dark room and chill out.
I think we live in this stupid fucking culture now where people think just because they have the ability to unpack tiny details, they're smart.
Right.
The thing that's
that's interesting. I like that.
I'm very even reluctant to express my opinion online about The Force Awakens. I think I've said that I've loved it once, and I've complained about think pieces 1,000 times.
Sure. It is, and also. It's a bowl of popcorn.
Absolutely.
It's not a myth that extends beyond a comic book. It's not heavy. It's bowl of popcorn.
And that was all put on it afterwards.
It's all post. That's all. Yeah, and that's
Joseph Campbell stuff.
But it was all after the fact. And so it's just like, did you like it? I mean, the problem with the other movies, you can get the main problem is they're boring.
They're long. They're so
boring.
long,
and they violate every rule of filmmaking. Whenever you're writing something, it's always like cut to the chase.
Yeah,
cut to a chase. Get some excitement going. The brilliance of Star Wars is it starts in the middle of a chase. The first thing you see is a tiny ship running away from a big ship. You know everything you need to know 20 seconds into the movie, and you're already on the edge of your seat. fucking brilliant.
But
the first act of The Phantom Menace, they're waiting for parts.
Yeah, they're in a waiting room.
They're in a waiting room and they're waiting for parts. But I just love that idea of if you get enough people in an area and they sense that there's not a lot of authority in place, it's going to go bad quick.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Like, I've never been to the gathering of the Juggalos. I would like to go in a jetpack, like 30 feet above the ground.
Yes, and not have to get down in there. Yeah.
But it's got to be fascinating. It's got to be like Omega Man.
Oh, for sure.
I really want to go to, and I guess I'll just put on clown makeup and have a little
try to
bit
blend
of meth,
in.
like a little
taste.
Hey, guys, me too.
A
Never
scandalous hint of meth.
just
a taste.
I'll just let you blow some into my face and try to quit, and just to be around those people. I think Bobcat Goldthwait did a documentary about the gathering of the Juggalos.
He did a documentary about that?
But he has a great story about it.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a story about doing a movie.
I'm a big fan of the Reasonable Clown Posse.
The totally sane clown posse?
Yes.
They're in like suits in their clown makeup. They're like accountants.
They make great decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're consultants.
Yeah. The well-kempt clown posse.
We do taxes for circuses.
I'm just saying, I think I'm into a wide range of things. And so even most part, I can look at things objectively and go, well, I'm not into that, but I can see why. The Insane Clown Posse is one instance where I cannot. I look at that and I go, I don't see the merit in any of this.
When it very first, they've been around forever.
Forever.
Before they had this weird hypnotized.
I had a friend in high school who was obsessed with them.
They were just, let's comedically be these white trashy rappers.
Their career is based on the first Quiet Riot cover.
Right. Just the art of it.
Yes.
Yeah. And, but like that and Korn or whatever, when they first came out, it was like bizarre.
Right.
Ultra violent, like, hey, we can be scary. We'll be clownishly violent.
Right.
With our rap.
I had a friend in high school who was into them for real, and this was well before there was ever a gathering of the Juggalos or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just remember being in his car being like, this is terrible. It's not even funny terrible. It's just terrible. They're terrible rappers. This just isn't good.
Have you ever seen the guys without makeup? They're just
they're the worst.
Gorgeous.
But I had no idea.
Chiseled,
They
sculpted.
you can see them if you pick up the J. Crew catalog.
Yeah, or just a more classic. They look like Michelangelo, the two of them. They were just like, how the hell do magnets work?
Yes.
Life is a mystery. And they're like rapping in the clouds. And
Shut up!
Planets.
Oh, you
people,
true? You
babies,
surely haven't you seen that
children,
video?
The desert. How does it work?
That is
a
real.
combustion engine. What in the heck? Like
They're
first
first of
All things are very easily
everything.
explained.
Listen,
Yes, that's why the song is so fun, and I want to watch it right after this. Well, yeah, at the end of their conventions or whatever, they say, "Yeah, praise motherfucking Jesus." They of course still swear, and they're still crazy.
but my mom's a
clowns.
Christian, and you're not supposed. She hates when I swear. I'm not allowed to swear.
Well, they're different Christians than your mother.
I got to get my mom into cool Jesus.
Kathy Sorbo, Greg Proops, and I believe Michael McShane had an a cappella heavy metal band called Priest Fist.
Oh my
Maybe
God, I
that
love
should
it.
be their name.
The recorded music?
No, it's just up in San Francisco years
okay.
ago. But it was
That's
it
an
sounds-
amazing name.
Priest Fist.
I love the insular sort of.
Yes,
I
I
love
do
looking
too.
in on subcultures that have their own language and their own like. I find that also fascinating. Their
do
own
too.
in jokes and all that kind of shit.
Well, it's like I'm really good friends with a lot of special effects guys. K&B Effects and all those guys. The Walking Dead are all really good close
I
friends. of mine.
follow them on Instagram and
There
look
you
at
go.
their bloody makings.
Yeah, they're Grim Doings.
Grim Duels.
Grim Doings.
Such a good
Is that what you're saying? But, I go up there to hang out and talk to them. And yeah, it's a whole other world.
I love it. Each of those things have their own little hierarchies, and each of those things like has a cool guy and a nerd and a popular table. It's like a little mini high school. All
I
of them
was
are.
on some talking head show thing with a pretty well-known comedian, and there was a question about an actor was dating a porn actress, just a random porn actress, knew everything. Well, she started off here, and then she did that, and then she started doing girl, and that's really when it took off. Then she went over to Vivid,
and just immediately volunteered all of this information.
Oh yeah, and it was just literally, it was just like, Ew.
Did he catch himself at any point and go, oh, I mean,
nope.
so I was told.
Loved it. Loved it. I mean, in the way that I could tell you, like, who directed every Planet of the Apes.
Right,
like,
sure.
He was into it.
I have split feelings about that because I don't think anybody should be.
Choice of words.
I double team my feelings on that.
Well, I'd like to go down on that point by saying that.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think anybody should be shamed for watching porn.
No.
But it is an interesting thing to just immediately volunteer.
It's not like I wouldn't.
It depends on what genre.
Like you were talking about, like Morrissey, like that's your jam.
As I do every single time I'm in your house.
That's your jam.
It is. And that very much has its own hierarchy and like the cool people in the front row and you know who's doing this and who's,
really? Like do you know
for sure.
How many people on average are going to every show? A dozen? 4?
Probably more than a dozen.
Really?
Sure.
Wow.
Have you seen people in England or somewhere that you also saw in Atlanta?
100%. 100%. Especially on US
Is there a competition
tours?
Between you to see who's a bigger fan?
Oh, without question. Oh my God. It's like, well, I'm older than most of the people now that are seeing
you
him.
should say you're 71.
I'm 71.
Yes.
My teeth are splitting in half on their own, so clearly.
They miss your palate.
I'm trying to figure out how to word this because seeing him here is very different than seeing him on the West Coast. And also, he plays the West Coast way more than he plays the East Coast.
Are you worried there's going to be a West Coast, East Coast Morrissey battle?
No, I'm just saying, like, seeing him.
They will have a poetry down. Is that because of his Latin fan base?
Of course,
You
100%.
talked about that. You started riffing on why do you guys like Morrissey? Because the whole maybe there's a couple of Morrissey T-shirts up front or something.
I went to see Morrissey at the Wiltern.
Right.
And I was me and the guy that I went to the show with were the only Caucasians
Isn't that
in the
curious?
Wiltern.
That's so cool.
When was this?
When
at the Wiltern?
Over 10 years. It was.
So it was before I moved here.
It's not something anyone would expect.
Well, I've read lots of books and essays about it. Again, it feels weird to talk about. I'm a white person. I'm not trying to be condescending and talk about.
What?
He encapsulates this sort of Latino men are known to be like hyper masculine.
Yes.
And he's sort of an escape from that. I'm just saying it's like he sort of tells these really macho masculine men that it's okay to not be so masculine. It's like it gives them a break from being that.
Well, there's also
where 99% of the time in their lives they got to be like macho and tough and whatever,
Right.
and then they can go see this guy and kind of drop that facade and be like, yeah,
like-
man, I'm sad too.
Yeah, but he's also he owns it.
Yeah, he likes that
in the way
macho
that when
dudes like him.
Yeah, in the way that when I go on the road, there is always 95% overweight single men without dates in the audience.
Right.
Or even when I was a kid, people made fun of me for listening to The Cure or
I got made fun of
orchestral maneuver.
constantly.
But they're all listening to Poison, and it was like the most homophobic, bro-y rock guys ever.
And you're like, they're dressed like women.
They're full-on makeup, rouge, even.
Yes. Yes.
Like foundation.
Hair metal,
and they're like, how do you know the names of all this stuff? Because of my sisters.
Yeah.
Because of the gay music I listen to.
Yeah, like hair metal. It's like these guys are drag queens.
Exactly, like literal drag queens.
RATT.
Yes.
It's like these guys are drag queens.
Completely.
They're gorgeous.
Which is, you're totally
Just
right.
singing about girls. Have we mentioned I like girls. Girls. Okay.
I definitely fuck girls. Yeah, for
I
sure.
never deviate from girls. So specifically, it's girls.
Listen, sister, I like girls and their pubes are delicious and I like hit them with my penis
They're
in the boob.
Yes, to everything you just said.
If you think that David Lee Roth is gay and then you watch you're like, oh yeah, of course. He's never not prancing.
Yeah, totally. 100% never not prancing.
I'm sure when he wakes up in the morning, he prances to the toilet
Completely.
to take a whiz.
Because I went to the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah, you saw them recently.
Yeah, it was a free ticket, and I'm
Was
like,
it Van
I
Halen
might
or David
enjoy
Lee
it.
Roth?
Yeah, and I was not striving to go there. It was great. He was so. I mean, his voice was kind of shot, but man, his knee hits his head when he does karate. He ripped off his shirt, and it's just this tattooed, in shape guy.
Gay.
And Eddie Van Halen's really still good. I mean, he's really good at guitar. How gay is that? And But he was doing stuff like, oh, here's some stuff I've been tinkering with, and he doesn't want anyone to see it.
He's
doing that.
shredding his ass off.
He was doing like a weird thing with it where he's adjusting a knob and doing something on the neck, and it just sounded like an oboe. Like, what are you doing? It's like, sounds like a string section, doesn't it? Okay, back to the hot
he's
for
amazing.
teacher.
You guys into Satie?
It was so good.
But that is the David Lee Roth. Girls, every song is about girls and girls, and I love going to an all-girl gym.
The only thing I don't like about girls is I don't have my own vagina to have sex with them with. What?
I want to stuff my vagina in theirs.
We turned him into some kind of lounge act.
Schneider.
Yeah, I've never come up with a way to do this because there's no intro to it, but the song Riders on the Storm is written like a perfect B-52 song. There's a killer on the road.
Yes! This is my favorite
like
thing.
a toad. Hey there, toad. Get out of that road.
That's so perfect.
Those are the lyrics?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Jim Morrison doesn't say, hey there, toad, get out of that road.
Yeah, but the first part, those are the lyrics.
His train is screaming like a toad. Girl, you gotta love your man.
Yeah.
Take him by the hand and make him understand.
You gotta totally do that.
Perfect B-52 song. And the B-52s also is, like, you talk about the late 70s where arena rock was reaching its point of putrescence.
Yeah,
where
for
it was
sure.
just bloated and lethargic, and it was so refreshing
when the Weirdos came out.
When the Weirdos came out.
Yes.
And
I think 1979 is the greatest year in the history of music.
And they called it New Wave because they didn't know what else to call it. And the idea of Rock Lobster, and I remember hearing Rock Lobster on WFNX, and going like, what the fuck is this? But it was like that Morrissey thing. It was just like this blatant, it wasn't just a rock, it was a rock lobster!
Yeah, totally.
Like, fuck you.
Yes.
We're a bunch of neon queens.
Yes.
I love
it. Completely.
It was beautiful.
I'm so lucky I had an older sister that just shoved that down my throat when everyone else was listening to arena rock. And
well,
I was
in probably 1980, in Worcester, Massachusetts, at the Centrum, Blue Oyster Cult played, and the Jam
Yeah, you told me
opened.
this.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that insane?
And they were booed off stage because they were wearing suits.
Isn't that hilarious? And what a bill that is. Like, who decided to pair them with Blue Oyster Cult?
Yeah, that's a weird...
They just see a tie and...
Yeah, totally.
And my high school, which was pretty... Like, I was about 50 minutes outside of Boston. It was pretty Rivers Edgy. The first 2 Police albums had come out. Regatta de Blankens and Yada Mandata had come out. Mm-hmm. And the average guy in my high school thought they were, quote, fags.
Of course.
Wow.
Well, wasn't that because, like, Sting dyed his hair?
Yeah, because they dyed their hair. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
Dyed their hair.
Wow.
Isn't that shocking?
Fags. But it's the way people change. 2 years later, everyone...
They're the coolest dudes.
They're the coolest band.
What are those albums? Why do they sound like something a Sicilian woman would say in the kitchen?
The first 2 Police albums?
Say them again.
Regatta de Blankens and Yada Mandata.
Yeah.
Hey,
manja.
I set you up.
Yes, there's an air about hot coffee that's hard to resist. Full-bodied, refreshing hot coffee makes any time a pleasant interlude. Won't you have some now?
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
Robert Bobby Knievel was born in Butte, Montana in 1938. He dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. His passion was riding motorcycles, but his first job was as a drill operator with the Anaconda Mining Company. Not an auspicious start, to be sure. But true to form, he was fired for making an earth mover do a wheelie. Well, he wasn't fired for the wheelie. He was fired because he lost control of the earth mover and then drove it into a power line and knocked out electrical power to the entire city for several hours. In 1956, he led the Butte Police Department on a wild chase on his motorcycle, which landed him in jail. He was in a cell across from one William Knoffel, whose nickname amongst the local constabulary was Awful, as in Awful Knoffel. Seeing the opportunity, the desk sergeant noted, "Well, looky here. We've got Evel Knievel and Awful Kanoffel." Still hacking around for work, Knievel joined a local rodeo, participated in ski jumping events, eventually joined the Army, and after that he started the minor league hockey team, the Butte Bombers. As a publicity stunt in 1960, he challenged the Czechoslovakian Olympic hockey team to a warm-up game against the Butte Bombers. Knievel got ejected from the game at the start of the third period, and when the game was over, the Czechoslovakian team found both Knievel and their money gone. From there, Knievel started the Sure Kill Guide Service, guaranteeing hunters that, under his guidance, they would bag big game, or he would refund their money. It wasn't long until game wardens realized that Knievel was taking the hunters into the Yellowstone National Park to find said big game, which was protected, since it lived in the park. And they threatened to arrest him for poaching. He sold insurance. That didn't work. He opened a Honda motorcycle dealership. That didn't work. He moved to a different state, opened another Honda motorcycle dealership. That didn't work. Eventually, he thought back to one Joey Chitwood. Joey Chitwood was a race car driver who used to tour the country doing daredevil auto stunts, and what came to be known as the Joey Chitwood Thrill Show. And Knievel felt he could do something similar on his motorcycle. For his first show, acting as his own MC, he jumped a 20-foot box of rattlesnakes. His back wheel hit the box, but he got away okay. He met a producer named Bob Blair, who helped him set up Evel Knievel and his motorcycle daredevils. The show was a huge success. For the second show, Knievel tried a new jump, where he would jump spread eagle on his bike over another jumping bike. Knievel jumped too late, and the other motorcycle hit him in the groin. Let's think about that for a moment. Hit in the groin by a moving motorcycle. He spent so much time in the hospital recovering that the other daredevils had to split off and go looking for work elsewhere. So when Evel got out of the hospital, he toured small towns as a solo act. And this is where he got the idea to jump over cars. He'd advertise he was jumping, say, 10 cars, and everyone would come out to watch. And then he'd advertise he was now going to jump 11 cars, or 12 cars, so everybody would come out to watch again. The downside is, he started crashing. A lot. In Missoula, Montana, he tried to jump 12 cars and a cargo van, but he couldn't get up enough speed. So his back wheel hit the top of the van, and his front wheel hit the top of the landing ramp. He broke his arm, several ribs, and received a concussion. With every successful jump, like in Gardena, California, where he cleared 16 cars, he'd have to add another car. And that would result in jumps like in Graham, Washington, where his bike hit the last vehicle, he was thrown, suffered a major concussion. Determined to complete the jump, he returned a month later. And guess what happened? Nope, crashed again, this time breaking his left wrist, right knee, and 2 ribs. While in Vegas to see a prize fight, Knievel was struck with a brainstorm. He would jump the fountains at Caesar's Palace. But how to set it up? Knievel formed a fake company called Evel Knievel Enterprises and had 3 friends pose as lawyers and start calling Caesar's CEO Jay Sarno. His other friends called Sarno, claiming to be from Sports Illustrated or ABC TV's Wide World of Sports, inquiring about this mythical Evel Knievel jump. Finally, Sarno agreed to let Evel Knievel jump the fountains on December 31st, 1967. Rumor has it that on his way to the jump, Knievel stopped by the blackjack table with his last $100 and lost. Upon his approach to the ramp, Knievel felt the bike decelerate somewhat. This minor loss of thrust was enough to force Knievel to come up short and land on the safety ramp. The handlebars came out of the bike, Evel tumbled over them, and then skidded into the dunes parking lot. He suffered a crushed pelvis, a crushed femur, fractures to his hips, wrists, and both ankles. Just 5 months later, he was back, jumping 15 Ford Mustangs in Scottsdale, Arizona. He crashed and broke his right leg and foot. He successfully jumped 19 cars in Houston, selling out 2 back-to-back performances at the Astrodome. A couple of months later, he crashed trying to jump over some Pepsi trucks. After that, he made a successful jump at Cow Palace in the Bay Area but had to come to a sudden stop because of a short landing area where he got thrown off his bike and then run over by his bike, and he broke his back. But along the way, Evel Knievel became a huge star.
He's probably the only man in history who's become very wealthy by trying to kill himself. It's true, he is somewhat of a legend. He does incredible stunts with motorcycles, and he has broken, I guess, more bones than anybody in history. And yet he keeps at this. And he's planning to jump over 50 cars this Sunday at the Los Angeles Coliseum, and it's called an Evel Knievel Spectacular. So let us meet the gentleman. Here is Evel Knievel.
He wore a big white leather jumpsuit like Elvis Presley, and he was everywhere you looked. If you were a boy growing up in the 1970s and you had a bike, you spent a lot of time pretending to be Evel Knievel.
When I helped design my line of AMF Roadmaster wheels, I said make them red, white, and blue to bear my name, Evel Knievel. You can see they're built solid, flashy, and hip, and the bikes come with these safety tips that bear my name, Evel Knievel.
In 1971, George Hamilton played him in a biopic. Knievel's next big jump was the Snake River Canyon, which we've already covered, and despite that debacle, he did not quit. On May 26, 1975, at the peak of his fame, he jumped 13 buses at Wembley Stadium in England and crashed. And despite having broke his pelvis, he stood up and, walking out of the stadium, made the following announcement.
That you are the last people in the world who will ever see me jump, because I will never, ever, ever jump again. I am through.
Yeah, but that didn't last long. He came back to America and successfully jumped 14 buses. And after that, inspired by Jaws, Evel Knievel announced he would jump over a tank full of sharks. But during the rehearsal, he accidentally ran into a cameraman, sent him to the hospital with an eye injury, and Evel broke both of his arms. Like all mega successes, Evel Knievel didn't so much go out in the blaze of glory as slowly crash his way off into the sunset. The shark jump was eventually performed on Happy Days by Fonzie. In 1977, one of Evel Knievel's promoters published a book entitled Evel on Tour, which portrayed Knievel in a somewhat less than glamorous light. Knievel did what anyone would do in that situation, went to the man's office, had a friend hold him down, and beat him with an aluminum baseball bat. Knievel ended up in jail for that stunt. He lost several major lucrative endorsement deals, and as the 1970s slipped away into the 1980s, so did Evel slip from the spotlight. Evel Knievel passed away in 2007 and was buried in his hometown of Butte, Montana. Following the funeral, held at the 7,500-seat Butte Civic Center and presided over by televangelist Robert Schuller, actor Matthew McConaughey performed the eulogy. No shit, that's what it says. Matthew McConaughey. Don't ask me. Now, let's say you want to expand your knowledge of Evel Knievel, or Star Wars for that matter. Why not toddle over onto DanaGould.com? Click on our Amazon banner. Click on through and shop till your heart's content. You get what you want, and for not one penny extra, we get a couple of bucks to keep the show running right back here. DanaGould.com. While you're surfing the information superhighway, check out the Dana Gould Hour store at ComedyFilmNerds.com. Your place for Bevilacqua heating and air conditioning t-shirts, Dana Gould Hour t-shirts, signed copies of my CDs Funhouse and Let Me Put My Thoughts in You, and also signed copies of the album. And don't forget, I Know It's Wrong, my other one. They're all there, signed in many formats. Just go to the store, for God's sakes. And there's posters, too. I signed everything. It's all awesome. All available at store.comedyfilmnerds.com. You know, for many of us, shaving is a pain. It's uncomfortable, and razor blades are outrageously expensive. Harry's was started by two guys who wanted a better product without paying an arm and a leg to get it. Harry's makes their own blades, high-quality, high-performing German blades, crafted by shaving experts. They offer a high-quality shave that's better for your face and for your wallet. Harry's blades are about half the price of the other big branded blades, and they ship for free to your door. And here's exciting news from Harry's. They've officially launched 2 new products, foaming shave gel and aftershave moisturizer. The starter set is an amazing deal. For $15, you get a razor, foaming shave gel, and 3 razor blades. So go to harrys.com now, and they'll give you $5 off if you type in my coupon code, Dana. D-A-N-A. Do that with your first purchase. That's harrys.com, and enter the coupon code, Dana. Check out for $5 off, and start shaving better today.
Make sure you get yours and enjoy it now.
Welcome to Political Talk with 2 guys from Boston. A working man's look at the socio-political issues of our day. And now, Political Talk with 2 guys from Boston.
This is Political Talk with 2 guys from Boston. I'm Johnny Condon.
Yeah, I'm Robbie Sullivan.
Oh, the holidays are over.
Can you believe it?
I'm so happy.
Oh, God, I got through it.
Does your mother do this? After the presents are done and everybody, and you get the big garbage bag full of wrapping paper.
Yeah.
It looks like the Blob. Which when to save the wrapping. No.
Oh, God, yeah.
No, I'm not saving.
I can't do it.
I've never unfolded and reused wrapping paper. We're never going to get that poor.
Yeah.
That we're going to reuse ribbon.
You could see my grandmother's face as she started to unwrap her gifts. Like,
yeah.
Like, don't take the tape off wrong. Because she wanted it all back for next year.
It's 3 cents a ton.
Yeah.
We can rip up wrapping paper.
But I love that print.
If you can afford a gift, you can afford wrapping paper.
But she really did love it to save it. It was an important thing. It's weird.
And
so the people who saved it, she loved more.
Oh, of course.
You're better at unwrapping. I love you more. Definitely. That's not a fake thing.
You can sit closer.
Yeah. You're going to be all right.
Then there's a break after about okay, take a break.
Yeah. So one year, my stuff's wrapped like in newspaper, and I realized, because I'm a gorilla, and I open everything like with my thumb. So it's all in no
I thought
more
it was
wrap.
because you only got fish.
No, I get no more Santa Clauses. I just get newspaper. It's like, oh, cool, an article about suffering. Cool.
I got some new Chuck Taylors, but the deficit is crippling our overseas. And then my mother does this. Then when no one's looking on the couch in the front hall, all the stuff that you failed at, she'll lay out. Sweater's the wrong size.
Great.
I'm allergic to wool. You can take this back. I already have one of these. And it's like it's a Carol Merrill on Let's Make a Deal. She goes, this is wrong. You failed at this.
That's
this
wonderful.
Is rejected.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, now.
Did she like the egg timer I gave her?
No, sure. She loved the egg timer.
She seemed really excited.
It would be great if you get so close to death you're on an egg timer. Oh, God.
Well, she always makes me eggs. I thought it'd be appropriate.
And then I'm sitting there looking at all the display of rejects. I'm like, is this supposed to make me feel better or worse? I can't decide. I can't figure it out.
That's really great. Now, would your mother's sweater size be too big or too small?
Oh, it's always too small.
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess.
Yeah, but if you got it the right size, she would,
I'm
large.
not this big.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you think? Your dear own mother?
But you can see it. It's general because then you get her mother.
Yeah.
My grandmother. And she's one of those people, she would put a bullet through her brain before she asked you a question about yourself.
Oh, that's funny.
She comes over and she talks about what's going on at the home.
Oh.
I get all the
updates.
Yeah. Well, Jeannie celebrated her 17th anniversary of when her period stopped. Oh, lovely.
That's wonderful. That's really good.
Because all of her gals at the home, their uteruses are little museums.
Oh, my. Grandma, really?
It's just rusted out cars and tumbleweeds.
Yeah, and then you're like, I just met someone. Would you get me a drink?
Their uteruses look like the Cadillac graveyard. So she comes over. I get the lowdown on what's going on at the home.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's always
because you can't read that in the paper. No one covers it.
And then it gets time. She's out of her headlines. She does. It's like a news report.
Yeah.
And she's out of her headlines, And then she gets to the point in the conversation where a normal person would ask you about yourself. Actually, a normal person would open by asking you about yourself.
How are you, dear?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I couldn't help notice. You've had a foot amputated. Right. Just anything.
Nothing. Center of the universe.
So, normal person would ask you about yourself, and then if there was something interesting that they had to share, they'd work it in.
Yeah.
No, it's all about her. And then there's like a 7-second silence where she realizes she's got nothing left, and she can't remember anything before the first Bush administration. And then it's just random. She can't shut up because God forbid she shut up.
Yeah, she got to say something.
So then it's just random things she noticed. Yep. Stop signs. They're all over town.
That's so good. It's like literally like, well, I just thought of something. I'm going to say it. There's no filter no more.
I gotta talk.
Yeah.
I gotta talk, or you'll forget I'm here, and you'll just start throwing coats over me.
I was always hoping you'd be more like your uncle. Stuff like that. Where you're like, wait, what? I didn't. Huh? What do you mean? Who? Which one?
They say, though, alligators' eggs have leathery shells. Still. Or just like occasionally, just like if you start to ignore her, then you'll just hear like, I don't know, Florida.
That's actually, I do feel that way.
You're alive.
I do feel that way,
that's
though.
Just like, that's just like, I'm alive. Still alive over here.
There's a pulse and a heartbeat.
Yeah, they're just.
Now, how old is your grandmother?
She's 1,000,006.
I was going to say, because your mother's got to be up there.
Yeah, she's as my dad says, she's got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel.
Well, but your mom's got to be, what, 79?
When she prays to God, God answers, holy shit, are you still alive?
I thought we checked you in.
Why are you praying? You could just come by the office. No, I'm not dead. I'm not dead yet. Holy shit. Hang on, I got to check my paperwork. I thought you were in the waiting room. No, I'm still alive.
That's great. And then
if God really answered prayers, 99% of them would be, what is it now?
He's like, hey, you know what, dear? I was wondering, could you tell me what's going on with the nursing home you're at? How's that going? Could you fill me in?
Yeah, she could have 5 minutes with God. Ask me anything. Well, Jeannie's son found a pinball machine at the swap meet. They don't make them anymore now. It's all computers.
Yeah. God, can I ask you about the mold? Does that really kill people, or are they just coming in and doing nothing, and they're charging?
I'm worried about the mold.
Yeah, because they come into the nursing home and they charge all of us to come into our room and get rid of something I don't see. And I just wonder, is that real?
Yeah, it's sort of like it's mold. 300 years ago, it was ghosts.
Yeah.
Same guy,
exactly.
Same model, same business model.
Totally
for ghosts.
Same thing.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember when you get the a home security system. My brother-in-law, the marriage my sister fucked up.
Yeah,
but she married a guy with money, and that had to go. That had to end.
That's not going to work.
That's not going to work.
That'll make me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
every paycheck.
That was exactly. It was like she won a Ferrari.
Yeah,
and just turned the key and started looking for trees. It didn't feel right.
Just checking real quick to see, does the check here? Okay, I'm going to do something stupid.
Yeah, her in a Ferrari was like a dog in a tuxedo. It's like, it's a beautiful tuxedo. You don't belong in that thing. It doesn't hang right.
Yeah, as my mother said when my sister walked in with an Asian person who was a very nice man, she said, "Oh, don't worry, this won't last." Wait, what? How's that true?
Before he leaves, ask him how algebra works.
We'll never see him again. Get some information out of him. Find out what's up.
So I'm over my brother-in-law's house. They're on their honeymoon, and they get their new house, and they're getting the alarm put in.
Oh yeah,
and the alarm company comes in.
Yeah, new house.
Yeah, I don't have an alarm. I have a hammer. I have a hammer in my nightstand.
I have a loud whistle.
Yeah.
If I hear a burglar, I go. That's about all I got.
I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and kill a burglar or randomly fix something.
Yeah, or I might hurt his ears.
So the alarm people come in and they go there. So what kind of what kind of system do you want? And I'm like, well, I don't know. What about the system they ordered? And he disappears, and then you count like 1, 2, Mr. Condon. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I know you have this system. I have one question. Do you like rape? No? Let me show you this over here.
Here's a better system if you don't care for that.
Do you have a ghost filter? No. Where's your monkey screen? I don't think they have monkey screens. What are you going to do when the apes take over? I don't know. I can't. It's not my house. My sister will screw this up before the apes take over.
Yeah, we put in air conditioners. It got nothing to do with tripping alarms.
Oh, God.
Remember the time we tripped that lady's alarm?
I do remember that time.
That was pretty fun.
That's a weird. You go into these old ladies' apartments. They all smell like soup
and mothballs.
Yeah, soup and mothballs.
Mothball soup.
Mothball soup.
Really?
Their apartments are vacuum sealed, so when you open the door, it's like.
That's true.
It's like
That's true.
It's like opening the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, and you see like pieces of carpet sort of floating in the air.
And they're so old. Like this is Snowball.
Yeah.
That's a coelacanth. But they just animals that have been extinct for decades.
Yeah, totally dead, but very, very comforting.
Oh God! Speaking of old ladies' apartments, we got to go out to the. We got to go to the Phillips place and put in a unit.
Oh, I know. She called. She keeps saying, like, we're not cool right now, so you're not cool. That's the message she left us.
All right.
So we got to do that.
Let's do it.
All right.
Political Talk with two guys from Boston.
And now, on with the show.
There's have you heard of like how the first draft of Phantom Menace is amazing?
No.
It's really great.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, there's actually this great podcast called The Star Wars Minute where they go through all the movies 1 minute at a time.
Oh, wow.
Half an hour on each individual minute. They've gone through the whole original trilogy. And
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They go over. Oh, okay. I thought you meant they do each movie in 1 minute and it's a 3-minute podcast.
That would also be amazing. Movie. But yeah, like they... Yeah, they take minute 34 of Jedi and talk about it for half an hour.
Jesus H. Christ.
And
again, how many kids do you have?
It's thorough.
It is thorough. And right now they're on Phantom Menace because these guys are just librarians of lore and they've done all the research. And every time...
did they work at the Cambridge Science Fiction bookstore?
No, but they worked at, what was it? They worked there in New York and they worked at like some legendary comic book store in New York. And like
Forbidden Planet.
Yes, yes. And so
been there.
Every time I complain, they'd be like, "Oh, you should see what happened here in the first draft." There's always some extra bit of exposition from Darth Maul about like how the Sith had staged this political scheme, or like some extra sentence from Qui-Gon Jinn who explained why they would allow a creature like Jar Jar to follow them around, and you'd be like, "They cut that." Oh, God, like cut one stupid action scene. You could have added back in 20 minutes of dialogue that would have made this all make sense.
Well, the thing that I like, the thing that's great about, oh, my God. Wow. I just
Star
had
Wars.
crazy. No, I just had a crazy memory come back to me that I haven't had in years. I didn't see Star Wars when it first came out. I saw it in June. I mean, I saw it when it first came out, but I didn't see it.
A month. Yeah.
You let it be out for a while.
It wasn't. I was 13.
You needed to see that cutout of Chewbacca.
I don't even think it came. I mean, that was even before movies opened in every town on the same day. I don't even.
Sure.
Yeah, were the lines everywhere? Like where you grew up? Were there lines?
No, the big. No. I mean,
No.
also that wasn't supposed to be.
I was a different age.
The big movie that summer was The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, God, that's
like
right.
that. Before all the movies opened, you knew The Spy Who Loved Me was going to be amazing. Right. And I remember the TV commercials for The Spy Who Loved Me. Like, it's the biggest, it's the best, it's Bond and beyond. And like, that was like, we're going to The Spy Who Loved Me. That's all that matters.
So the Dark Horse movie was good, but
it has a swimming car.
It is a swimming car. As Ringo's wife. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Classic standard.
Yeah, and a massive bow tie.
Yep.
Roger Moore has a tuxedo, like a 70s tux, with a bow tie that looks like slightly smaller than Bozo's bow tie.
Like he's a windmill.
He's an alternate source of power. But I remember sitting on my front porch talking to my Uncle Jim, was visiting from Florida. And we lived in a duplex with our family and my dad's sister, my aunt, Gert, lived on the other side of the duplex. And I was a little kid and I haven't seen Star Wars yet. And my Uncle Jim, I just remember sitting there going, talking to my dad going, and Uncle Jim did 2 tours of Vietnam for the CIA. He's a tough dude, Uncle Jim. And I just remember him going, and I haven't thought of this in decades. It just like whooshed back to me. And it was the thing about Star Wars that was amazing that you'd never seen before. He goes, Kenny, talking to my dad, have you seen Star Wars? And he goes, I ain't seen that shit. and normally, if my dad said, I ain't seen that shit, you stop talking about it. But my Uncle Jim he's not fazed. He goes, it's amazing. It takes place in the future, but it's all dirty. Like, it's not all clean. Like, the ships are the ships are broken. The robots are dirty. And it was like, but that had never been done that I can think of. Right. It was a world that was thoroughly lived in. And that was the great thing that is in none of the prequels. In the prequels, they're in beautiful cities and it's all clean and shiny. This Star Wars took place like it's like Tatooine. It's if there's a bright spot in the universe, this is the planet that it's farthest from. It's on the outskirts of everything, and it's just this weird frontier outpost, which is why the original Mos Eisley was so great. It was just this little spooky town with a couple of people in it.
It's like a Western.
Yeah, it's like a Western. Yeah. You don't need
backwoods,
as Frank Darabont said, you don't need a marching band and an elephant dropping turds. It's better when it's just this little spooky outpost.
Yeah,
and.
He didn't know he'd made a Western.
He didn't know he made a Western, but that was great about The Force Awakens that none of the prequels had. Like, the prequels are like, there's a scene in one of them, it's like out of The Big Sleep, where he's in a Art Deco diner and he's getting information from some guy.
Right.
Dexter Jetster's
endless
diner. With Flo the waitress.
It's
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
What really got me excited for this movie wasn't a trailer. I stopped watching at one point, was when I heard Simon Pegg had been advising J.J. Abrams a lot. And then I heard he was in the movie, and then Simon Pegg tried to play it off. He's like, I got a real small part. Don't worry about it. But I will say it was nice to feel like I could air my grievances. And J.J. Abrams said, tell me everything you hated about the prequels. I know you made a whole TV series about how you hate these prequels. And I told him everything. And then to hear J.J. Abrams say, like, in a separate interview, like, Simon and I went on many hour-long walks. And and I was like, that made me thrilled. Like, somebody who was that, like, and he also, Simon worked very closely with Edgar Wright, who's this amazing, very anal
I know Simon
guy.
in it. I know Simon and Edgar.
And to the idea that they had their hands.
Edgar is currently not making something I wrote.
Kudos. Son of a bitch.
No,
Edgar, are you listening to me?
They're great. They're great.
Yeah. But also, JJ clearly loves Star Wars, unlike Star Trek, which I don't think he loves so much.
I liked the first Star Trek movie, but everyone I know who...
If you're real hardcore, it's like he just doesn't get Star Trek.
But Star Trek in itself, Star Trek's a great example because you have the original series, and then if people love the original series, and you go, you know what? I thought The Next Generation was not that bad. If you just pause right there and go, I'm going to pitch you a show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. It sounds like a Saturday morning Peter Engel show.
When it came out,
but it was great.
Yeah. Well, it was great starting in season 3.
Right, but it grew into a whole new
into an amazing show.
And if you look at Star Wars, if you just say to somebody, I wrote this movie, here's the title, Star Wars. People go, that's the hackiest title ever.
And it was originally the Star Wars.
Right, but now Star Wars has become a thing.
It's a brand,
of a
like
bad
Trump.
title. Right, but now, but when he wrote it, it's like Star Wars. They're wars in stars, and you would just say that's hacky and terrible. You've got to call it something else.
When it came out, it was like it's not. It's kind of like Star Trek. That's what was the whole point. It's like, it's like Star Trek. All right, hope maybe it'll be good.
Right,
because people forget also in 1977 was the beginning of the big Star Trek resurgence. Like 1976. Was when Star Trek was huge again.
Yeah.
Even though it had been off the air for 7 years.
Because a whole new generation had discovered it. But
on syndication, yeah. Because when you talk about Star Wars.
Yep.
It is.
I show some form of emotion.
It is, yeah. That's interesting to see. But it's also people, it's like I was saying before, it was so 70s-y. Mm-hmm. And there are so many things about like the summer of 1977 was disco, cocaine. I believe Saturday Night Fever.
Yep,
was 1977.
Cool bands.
Smokey and the Bandit was 1977. Like Three's Company was probably the biggest show on television. Carol Burnett show was still on.
Things were broad and glossy and video-ish
and brown and olive green.
A lot of beige, a lot of avocado.
Yep.
And it was such a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah.
And clothes were awful.
But
I wore them.
It was an era that didn't have any substantial defining cultural moments. If you take Star Wars out of the equation, you go to the 60s, there's a million things you could pick, the 80s, the Cold War, whatever. But the 70s,
Exorcist of the Jaws, and
the 70s,
pop cultural moments.
Yeah,
but
pop culture.
The overall culture
was very heavy with pop culture moments.
It was pop cultural. It was a hangover from the 1960s.
Yeah, absolutely,
it was a cultural. The 1970s was a cultural hangover.
But that's why I agree, and that's why the Dirty Harry movies are all about anti-heroes, and Star Wars is this dirty, gross film. Like, it wasn't the slick disco stuff, and so it was finding itself through movies, and there wasn't anything that exciting going on that would rally enough people. So when you have a movie like the original Star Wars come along, people get so excited because it's ratty, it's got lightsabers, it's got these actors you don't know, this Wookiee, cool spaceships, like it's everything nerds like, but also you had a strong female character, and that's what I think was so brilliant about its timing, because it was like this collection. It was like a yard sale.
I'm going to draw a weird analogy for you about the 1970s, and this is not where I plan to go in this conversation, but you brought it up.
I apologize.
No,
buckle your pants.
This is great. Yeah, the 1970s were a cultural hangover from the 1960s, especially the late 1960s. 1968, in 1 year, you get Martin Luther King assassinated, Robert Kennedy assassinated, the Vietnam War is raging. Then you have Nixon is elected, and the 60s die at Woodstock, at Altamont, and you just get this weird. People are tired, they're cynical, they're beaten to death, and you just get this weird. The early 70s are an incredibly weird, oddly dark period. All the science fiction, fantasy movies. Everything is nihilistic. The Apes movies, A Boy and His Dog, Logan's Run. Everything, everything is. Every movie starts with, okay, world's blown up by nuclear war now. Everything was
just that Harlan Ellison, like, this is all for naught.
Yeah, but it's true. Like every major science fiction movie from the early 70s, the world's been blown up.
Yeah,
Silent Running, The Omega Man, Planet of the Apes, A Boy and His Dog, Westworld. There's all these incredibly dark and entertainment. Comedy is very heavy. Although Lenny Bruce died in 1966, you get Richard Pryor and George Carlin, and they're brilliant, and comedy's never been better. But all their stuff is very heavy. It's
especially by 1977.
Yeah, it's very strong, and it's very potent, and they're saying stuff.
That's when Saturday Night Live started too.
Saturday Night Live started, and this is what changed. Two things came out, 1976, 1977, that both said, "Fuck it, we're just going to have fun, and we're gonna end the headache, and we're just gonna have fun." Movies, I would say it was Star Wars. And comedy, it was Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yeah.
Just
Silly.
I'm gonna put a balloon on my head. I'm gonna put on, like, people forget how big Steve Martin was.
Yeah.
In the late 1970s, fucking huge.
Yeah, giant arenas.
Huge. He was every single person had the Best Fishes poster in their bedroom. Like, if you were a comedy kid and you watched Saturday Night Live and Steve Martin, and that was a really late 70s thing, and that is when disco took over and cocaine is cocaine, and culturally it was like, nope, we're just gonna have fun. Fuck it. We're just gonna have fun.
Studio 54.
Right. Studio 54, all that stuff. Then 1979, revolution in Iran. They take the American embassy workers hostage in Iran, because the Shah of Iran, that the American government had been propping up for years, has been overthrown by a religious cleric, the Ayatollah Khomeini, and now America is having its nose rubbed in it. We lost Vietnam. Nixon was a crook, and he had to resign. The guy that took over for him kept falling down. Jimmy Carter couldn't organize a fart at a baked bean picnic. They invented.
He tried, though. That was right up his alley.
They invented a new word for how shitty the economy was: stagflation, which was stagnant inflation. And instead of dealing with those problems and putting on our bootstraps and eating shit and fixing it, a guy came along and said, nope, we're great. Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And it's like, nope, we're awesome. And people just went, okay. It's like the 70s were a hangover for the 60s, and the 80s was just this massive denial party.
But the 60s were a collapse from the 50s, which is exactly the way you just described the 70s.
Which was a recession from the 40s, yes.
But people had come back from World War II. They wanted to rip it up. They were earning some money. And that's why entertainment in the 50s is so lighthearted and silly, and variety shows take off. And a lot of movies are so goofy from the 50s and Happy Days tried to capture that. But it sort of skips these generations, and then the people become old enough to make the movies. Like if you think about Coppola and Lucas and all those guys that started out together in San Francisco, it's not a mistake that they're the same age. And they're all making their own version of how they see the world. So you have Apocalypse Now or Star Wars, all the American Zoetrope guys, and the, Raging Bulls. What's the Peter Biskin book?
Easy Riders, Raging Bulls.
Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. Captures that perfectly. So now, with the advent of the internet where everybody's a critic and people can make complaints and you have CG running rampant, you're never going to be able to do that again because everything is so micromanaged that now you get things that are more sterile. So bringing it back to the new Star Wars, when you find something that has a lightness to it that isn't sterile and cynical, that's just like you said, fuck it. Let's just have a good time. I know the buttons I'm going to press so you have fun. And I think that's why they did it so well, because it wasn't like nitpicking the look of the monster here. It was just
it did what Star Wars did.
Yeah, but that's what's so brilliant about, I think, the new movie, because they almost said we can bake the most technically advanced cake ever after great research, or we can just throw some shit in a bowl and hope people like it. And I think they did the second, and it's great.
Yeah, I think there's a surprising amount of risks in the new movie.
Yeah.
Despite all the nostalgia they packed in there. Like, for months, Ken would tell me, at least a solid 3 months, I think, it was like they can't make a villain as good as Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That is going to be how this movie fails, Dan.
I was sure that it's not going to have a Darth Vader.
And
well, I will say Dark Helmet was every bit as good as that.
That's true.
But you liked Kylo Ren.
I like Kylo Ren more than Darth Vader now.
Really?
He's much more nuanced. He's a more interesting character.
He was the last person I thought would say this, and I think that is
and
huge...
I'm not a big Adam Driver fan either, but I think he's great.
If he wasn't related to certain characters, not to spoil this for the one person that hasn't seen it, do you think it would be as interesting?
No, because that's part of what makes him who he is. It's who he came from.
But Darth Vader was the opposite, where you liked him first and then found out he was related to somebody. Spoiler alert.
Right. And I'm willing to bet that in Star Wars, when they were making Star Wars, Darth Vader was not Luke's father.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, that was clearly...
Not until Empire.
That was clearly like... What here? We need a big. We can't blow up the Death Star again. What can we do to shock him at the end of this movie? We'll say that Darth Vader's his dad. Oh my God, that's fucking brilliant!
But also, it gave him a new dimension. You know,
exactly.
That first movie, Darth Vader is.
What I'm saying is, this stuff was not written beforehand.
Well, sure,
clearly they go. This is
there are elements of it. If you look at their first draft, but it's not. It's the other characters are related to other characters.
Yeah.
It's the same family of stuff.
And then the way he says, no, it was always planned this way. Darth Vader made C-3PO. Yeah. There's only 11 people in this galaxy.
Right. Oh, God, that was the hardest part of the prequels for me. Like, I almost had an aneurysm every time C-3PO was in episode 1. Like, you should not be here, of all people. Yeah. But, his arc in the original 3 movies, Darth Vader's, was probably a surprise every time for everyone involved in the movie. They're like, really? Vader's doing...
Yeah.
But in that first movie, he was this crazy robot disco samurai.
Yeah.
And that was it. He was like this symbol of evil that they smashed together 10 genres to build. And you can't do that again.
Right.
So what they did, instead of building the ultimate scary thing from 1977, they built this... I mean, it's what they think people are most scared of now, losing their kid because the economy or whatever is falling apart. Like their kid's going to go join ISIS,
right? Yeah,
because they hate America. That's basically what Kylo Ren is. You know.
By the way, Luke Skywalker. Star Wars is about three friends.
Right.
Somebody describes Star Wars as this: a farm kid gets radicalized when his family is killed. He joins the underground and goes on a massive terrorist attack, which is what it is.
Well, and Kylo Ren is a kid going, you know what? I grew up in the suburbs.
Yeah.
I decided my parents are bullshit. I'm going to start a punk band. That band's going to break up. I'm going to join ISIS.
All right. Yeah.
And that is so scary now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so great about him as a villain. And I do, part of me does kind of wonder, like, would this movie benefit from a clearer villain? I get kind of driven crazy by how mysterious Episode 7 is. Like, you'll find out who Snoke is later and who Rey is later.
Gee, it's almost like Snoke is like...
Snoke is also maybe the most unfortunate, like Hanna-Barbera cartoon name they could have given.
Well, it's like, okay, snake. What's another word for snake? It's the past tense of snake.
I keep thinking
but that was always there.
Yeah.
Greedo was always there.
Sure, Dark Father. It's all.
Oh, yeah, Dark Father.
Darth Vader in German,
right, today I said, somebody said, somebody was describing someone I know as Nutso, and I went, oh, yeah, Totes Nutso. And I was like, that'd be a great name for a comedian in Attack of the Clones. Hey, Totes Nutso is here.
And he's doing like a really shitty he's doing like a alt show in the corner of Jetster's Diner because he can't work in a real club.
He has a droid flower that spritzes holographic water.
I mean, hey, the bounty hunter's henchman is Greedo. I get it.
Oh, God.
For the people to whom you are a fan of, you also tend to become very close friends with them.
It's the benefits of being a girl, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. No, but you're also not a weirdo. You're like, hey, how are you? I'm totally normal. You can tell right away. And so he's probably like, finally. Because didn't you like interview Billy Bragg when you were 15?
Yeah, I met him when I was like 18.
You don't have that if I kill you, do I become you vibe.
Well, you guys, that's very flattering. I
wonder if your skin will fit me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thankfully, that's worked in my favor.
Yeah.
But Chris got to meet him. He was super cool.
Yeah.
He's the best dude.
I wanted to be friends with him, too.
Yeah.
Falling out of touch. Nico Case almost came with us. I really think she's
that's right.
the pajamas of all the cats. Oh, every cat's. They wear the same pair. I don't want to meet her for real. I wanted to accidentally.
What would you have done if she had come to dinner with us that
night? Sat near her and said, I like what you do, and then left.
And that's it?
And probably ran away.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't want these people in my life.
I was hiking in LA on a trail, and I inadvertently found myself walking with this guy, and we were talking because I'd met him at Largo, and I'd been at Largo. And then this guy's girlfriend, who'd been on the phone, caught up with us, and his girlfriend was Jenny Lewis.
What?
And I was very awkwardly hiking with Jenny Lewis for a while, and I just wanted to run away.
What is with you, dude? Is it because they're like hot ladies, and that's why you guys are all...
No. Well, they were dating, and I was like, I'm such a fan of Jenny Lewis, and I was just like, and then, and I'm trying to be cool, like trying to like do the thing, like I know who you are, but I'm not.
But I'm being cool about it.
Being cool,
right? Yeah, but in that situation, you're set up. It's like you're her boyfriend's friend, so you're a cool guy already.
Yeah.
Like, she's not going to go, what a weirdo, because you're clearly friends with that
but
guy.
I just felt like it was weird for me to straddle the, I'm going to be casual around you and groovy.
But yet,
I also
I do
cool
know
enough
who you
I know
are.
who you are.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that to the point where maybe sometimes those people are lonely. How come no one says they like my work anymore?
Why does everybody act totally normal around me all the time?
In Deadwood, the guy that syphilitically was going crazy, the preacher or something, he was like doing a great job of going crazy. If you guys watched Deadwood, I don't know. He's just some character actor that you've maybe seen in some things. And I saw him at a Starbucks, and I'm like, hey, I'm just getting caught up on Deadwood. I just want to say you're really great in it. And he followed me. He wouldn't. I'm like, oh, now he won't leave me alone. He's like, what'd you like about it? And I'm like, oh, you're kind of touched in the head a little.
I went on a date with a guy I watched on TV. This only happened a couple of months ago.
Who?
I don't want to say who he is, but...
Ooh.
And he's like the hottest guy in the world. And I just was watching Veep. But I was watching it and I was just like, oh, that guy's funny. He's really funny. And I'm like, that guy's funny. I don't know if I've ever seen him in everything. This, yeah. And I just Googled him and I was like, oh, okay. And I followed him on Twitter and they followed me back and we started talking. And then phone numbers were exchanged and we went on a date and then never again, which is a bummer because he's super hot. But he's a super nice guy.
What was he like in the sack?
I wish I could tell you. Like, I was straight up like, I am watching you on TV right now. Like, I wasn't trying to play it cool and be like, what? That's weird that we met. Like, I was like, I fully found you because I'm watching you on TV, which I'm sure now with the internet, that probably happens all the time.
The internet.
Yeah. That's why celebrities go to prom with army guys.
Right.
I think I messed somewhere I messed that up, but you know
You're
what I mean?
Right. Like, you are right.
Will you go to my Desert Storm ball with me?
Yes.
And it's like, all right, I will.
Sure.
Thank you for your...
Carrie Underwood's coming here. She's going to fuck me.
Completely. And I've also heard tons of stories about famous guys on Twitter, like crews and ladies.
After Carrie Underwood blows you, you go, thank you for your service.
Yes. We've gone past even trying to do that weird in between, like, I know who you are, but I'm not going to acknowledge it. I'm going to stay cool, to just being like, yeah, I saw you on TV. You want to fuck? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Whenever I talk to a woman, I proceed as if she has a rape whistle clenched in her teeth. And it is an exhalation away from full blast.
Well, I'm just saying that, like, I'm not even famous by any stretch.
Hey, nice. Okay.
I'm not famous in any way, and I'll get tweets that are just like, can I take you out to dinner while you're... And I'm like, no, you're a total straight. I don't know you at all.
Wow. That is bold.
Constantly. But then when I get those messages, I think of me. I follow Morrissey around. I follow him around.
You're in the
so I'm the equivalent of that. I'm not going to go, we're going to hang out now, right, guys?
But he's acknowledged you from the stage.
Sure, but when I flip the script, it's like, I've been that person.
I also think it's different for musicians and comedians. I think it's different.
Okay.
There's a high-ranking Air Force guy on Twitter that was a fan, of course, of World's Dumbest, because that skews to the
military demographic.
Yeah, because it used to be Court TV. I don't know why. Anyway, but he sends me a lot of messages. But he seems nice enough. But sometimes there'll be several in a day, and then it turned into, "Can I talk to you on the phone sometime? I think you're great. Are you ever going to make it down to Florida?" And I'm like, "I never go to Florida. Sorry, but I do interact with him. But now I've stopped." But I got stuck because he said, "If you talk to me on the phone, I will give $100 to any charity."
But what does he want to do?
If it's up to me, it'll be Wounded Warriors. But I don't know. Well, I'm kind of a jerk if I don't just have a phone call with a guy.
Can I walk with you but hold you by the nipples?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, isn't it? It's such
a, want him to get closer.
Yeah.
It's such a delicate thing for me, especially because I have been able to become friends with people I've been a fan of, that I feel like a hypocrite if I say, well, don't talk to me, don't message me. And I don't mean that at all. I am genuinely appreciative of anybody not only paying attention to anything I do, but telling me they liked it. I'll never not be appreciative. There's this one guy who lives in New Jersey who sends me a message every single day. Every single day, and has done since I've been on Chelsea lately. Every day, where I'm like, okay, dude.
That's scarier than mine. That's scary.
Yeah, and I forward them to like Chip and Andy and stuff to be like, here's evidence for my future murder trial.
Right.
No.
Smart. Good.
It's such a weird way. I don't want to ever discourage anybody from communicating with me in any way.
Yeah.
But I just feel like there's got to be some common sense thing where when you're typing it out, be like, would you send this to your mom or sister? And if the answer is no to either one of those, like, don't send it to me.
There is a line, people I know on the internet aren't like people I know. I am fully aware that everybody I know through the internet, it is a shadow of a person.
Right.
It's like a hand shadow of a human being. And those relationships are relationships, but they're not real relationships.
Right.
And that line gets blurred by a lot of people. And, you know, there are a lot of people whose online lives supersede their regular lives.
Right.
And I think it's generational.
For sure.
Where people over, 35 or something, like, I know them online. There's no right or wrong. There's just very different perspectives.
And I'm saying this still as somebody who still writes people fan mail. I'm still a fan of shit, and still have absolutely emailed people, handwritten people, and been like, "Hey, you're cool."
But you write serial killers a lot of fan mail.
Well, I'm trying to get
Guys
married.
in prison,
I'm trying to find a husband, Dana. When I'm doing it, there's no expectation of not only a response, but a relation. I'm just writing it going, hey, I just want you to know I like what you do.
I think you're great.
And if they write back, that's another story. But it's like, I think a lot of people go into it thinking they're owed something.
Yeah. When I croak and USA Today has the pie chart of music I listen to in my life, it's 83% Elvis Costello and then other music. The first time I met him was god-awful, but the second time I met him, he came to do The Simpsons and I was there in the record and he was like, we're working together on this thing. Couldn't have been.
Your coworkers.
Yeah.
Your peers.
Totally cool. And then like at the end, and then, we got photos and then I said, and now I have to ask you one annoying fan question.
Right.
And he was great. And I asked an incredibly obscure question that he knew, like he knew I was a deep dish fan. You can't say cause it's creepy if I say I hear your voice every day. Mm-hmm. You can't say that to somebody. It's not fair to them.
Although I might have said that exact sentence to Morrissey at one point. You are right though. You are right.
At what point do you get into the if I kill you, do I become you skin dress?
Right. Right. And I'm also somebody who will totally hang out with whoever, but there are times when it's on the road, especially when I went on tour this summer by myself. There were definitely some shows
for safety's sake.
Yeah, after shows, people would be like, "Let's hang out. Do you want to hang out?" And I'm like, "I'm a woman alone on the road in a place I don't live and don't know." You have to know that part of me saying no isn't a personal diss to you. It's also a desire to stay alive.
Yeah, I don't want to wake up surrounded by chalk.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh wait, she opened her eyes.
Yeah,
that's the last thing you want to hear when you wake up is to see a cop standing over you going, "Fuck, she opened her eyes."
Stop tracing.
Yeah.
Get out of here. It looks like a Keith Haring.
I was randomly getting furious today, as I tend to do, where I don't know why this popped in my head, but the word reboot. And then I got angry and had a conversation with myself that was like, why the fuck would a studio call it a reboot? I would never, if I was a studio head, ever say reboot. And I created a scenario in my head where I was the head of a studio. My first speech taking over was telling everybody, regardless of the amount of properties we own, we will never reboot anything because it's all about original ideas. And at the end of this fake, fast, insane conversation, I was so relieved I had given that non-existent speech to my non-existent employees. It's like, if I know they're going to fire me, but thank God I'm going out the way I wanted to. Yeah. When they say, we're rebooting Spider-Man, even within the Sam Raimi movies, the third one, which I think we all saw together, was such a farce and such a piece of shit. And then you get some locks like Andrew Garfield. They cannot stop suffocating these things through reboots instead of going, I actually think the new Batman Superman movie has potential. Just given...
Now I'm going to get very angry.
Just the way they're approaching it. I haven't seen anything, but the way they're approaching it...
Oh, you haven't seen anything?
No.
You'll change your mind as soon as you see 4 seconds.
The most recent trailer is one of the most disheartening, cynical, horrible things I've ever seen.
The trailer... You go to see Star Wars at the Chinese, and the trailer package is...
It was a crazy one that I got, yeah.
ID42, Batman versus Superman, Captain America... It's like getting raped by thunder.
Yeah. I got Jungle Book also.
Jungle Book.
Yeah.
What did we have? The Jungle Book is like, get off my face.
But that's like what you said about. I don't remember when we went to see Star Wars what the trailers were. They weren't that, but when the new Star Trek trailer.
Oh, that was it.
Yes.
Dirt bikes.
Yes. That was dirt bikes and heavy metal.
Right. Well, it's Sabotage, which I guess was in the first Star Trek movie where he steals his parents' car.
Oh, right.
There's a reference in Force Awakens as well.
Oh, right. Elo Nasty is one of the pilots in Force Awakens, named after Beastie Boys. But that's subtle, and if you look at his jacket, you'll see it. And that trailer of the new Star Trek movie with Beastie Boys blaring as everything explodes.
It's like a joke.
Yeah, well, my friend
the worst.
My friend
it's
Demi,
the worst thing I've ever
my friend
seen.
Demi at Midnight had 2 great points. The one that he got me with was just like, why do they have to keep destroying the Enterprise over and over?
And showing you in the trailer.
And everything. You feel like you see every single punch, every explosion in that trailer, and it has nothing to do with the tone of the original Star Trek.
No.
At least with the first one, I could sort of mend it together with that little Leonard Nimoy. This is just a new universe because of this little singularity glitch that happened with a black hole. But now I'm looking at this trailer, just going, it's a Fast and Furious movie. It's literally the director from Fast and Furious.
It's a movie that they put the character names.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Right.
I don't mind that movie, Star Trek Beyond. Don't call it Star Trek. Call it Scream Fist. or kill fuck.
Yeah, it doesn't need to have the Star Trek
It doesn't have to be.
characters or
It's just
ships
not
or
Star
anything.
Trek.
Kirk fucks an alien.
It just
doesn't even have to have that,
the spaceship,
Yeah.
the spaceship Dingleberry, and it's Captain Fuck, and that's fine. It just don't call it what it's not. We should go because it's El Nino, the baby.
It's all right.
I hope my car didn't float away.
I love it. I love it.
And
it hasn't rained here in so
El
long.
Nino means baby in Spanish?
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But why did they decide to name the weather thing that?
I don't know, but I like the people that go like, it can rain like this every day for 40 years and we'd still be in a drought.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
Or it doesn't mean anything. This doesn't do anything. It all washes away.
Yeah,
really,
just
all
enjoy
of
it.
We should work to not have that happen.
Yeah.
Let's buy some funnels or whatever the fuck we need.
The street's a river now. We should somehow take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's.
See where it's all going. Maybe contain
Follow it.
Yeah.
Lay down some Glad bags.
Yeah. We can't. We need them to wrap things fresh.
Oh, nuts.
Now, you said you just saw Morrissey in Vegas.
Yeah.
And you thought it might be his last show. Evil Knievel said that the 13 double-decker buses in London was his last jump. Wasn't.
I've said this before and been wrong, but people who aren't like hardcore nerds aren't going to care or get
Does
it.
he have a beard? It looked like he had a beard in the photo you sent me.
Oh, that might have just been like jowls.
I have one of those beards.
He doesn't have a beard. In between songs, he said a few things that were really kind of like, it's been real, you guys. Like he said something about how he doesn't have a record contract. He's toured for 2 years straight. He doesn't know if or when he'll do it again. All this kind of stuff
Do you
where
think
we're
that
like,
maybe for the first time ever, he was just kind of bummed out? Maybe he was just like, I don't have a lot
for
going
the first time.
for me.
It was also the fact that most of the shows I saw on this tour, he was opening with Suede Head, and that is the one show he closed with it, which is his first solo single ever.
Mm-hmm.
And the last ever Smith show, they closed with Hand in Glove, which was their first single ever. So that was a real like, totally closed with Suede Head, walked off on Suede Head.
And that's ha 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 ha.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes. When normally
very good.
he played that after The Queen is Dead, which was the previous night's encore.
Because he didn't play any Smith songs when I saw him.
Yeah, he only started doing it again probably like 10 years ago.
See, and that's the beauty of the Smiths, where he will blatantly sing the line. In the midst of all this chest-thumping arena rock, he was like, let's go for a walk where it's quiet and dry and talk about precious things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, motherfucker! So
totally.
Great.
I love it. So he ended with Suede Head. Yeah, he played that first and then Suede Head.
Frustration.
But the kicker for me,
Finish.
the kicker for me was his best friend. That you guys are going to think I'm crazy. This is the only thing Morrissey fans will care about. Linda Sterling was there. I don't know if you know who she is. She was in punk bands in Manchester. She used to do the Buzzcocks like albums. She's an artist. She did like the cover of Orgasm Addict and all these Buzzcock singles and stuff. She was there, like everybody saw in the audience, and that's the most like, why would she fly to Vegas unless it was a big deal? Why is she going to fly from England to Vegas to hang out unless it's a big deal?
But would he have his last show in Vegas?
That's what I don't understand
Wouldn't he want
either.
it in the Parthenon or something?
Or in LA even. I don't know, other than he just knew he could sell it out because we'll all go there from LA. Half the crowd was from LA anyway.
Right.
You think he's going to just not tour for a while, or that he's going to
I
off
can't decide.
himself?
There's also
No, he's not going to off himself.
He doesn't have kids. And there's a big hole in his life that is filled
With touring.
fan adulation.
Sure.
And I think that when you pull that away and you don't have a cat, ain't going to do it.
I know, but even as a fan, no offense to any Rolling Stones fans, but I don't want him to become Mick Jagger. I don't want to go see a 75-year-old Morrissey. Yeah. There are some people where it's like,
you will though. You'll be there.
Of course, I would be there, but I don't want. It's like
I don't want to be here.
There's a really funny, great
front row crying. I don't want to be here.
Like I still go see the Who, even though it's like. It's like watching the skeleton band from Mad Monster Party.
Oh my God, totally.
Do the mummy. One of the times the Who played, Robert Plant opened solo. And after he performed, Pete Townsend just walked out on stage, which was like, no, your guys are supposed to come on at like 20 minutes.
Right.
And Pete Townsend just walked out on stage and he said, I would like to thank what's left of Robert Plant for opening for what's left of the Who.
Oh my God.
Which I thought was really funny.
That is funny.
Very self-aware.
Right. Yeah, see, I kind of don't want that to happen. And he's really annoyed that no one will sign him, which they won't because you're an annoying diva. Either put out your own records or quit bitching about it. He can, but he's so old-fashioned. He wants to be signed to like RCA. And it's dude, that doesn't exist anymore.
Right. It's like when George Lucas kept saying, I want to make smaller experimental films. You have $8 billion.
Right.
People make films with their phones for free. What more do you want?
Yes. Yes.
And he said the reason he sold the company to Disney because he didn't think that the smaller experimental films he wanted to make could support the company. It's like, just stop it.
Oh, my God.
You've never made one.
Right. Right.
I've been saying this for 40 years. Smaller experimental films.
The whole process of traveling to see him and seeing everybody, and I do it still all by myself. That's a huge reason I traveled the world, and now it's not there anymore, which isn't to say I still can't travel. I was really savoring it in Vegas because I love the process of it, weirdly. I love the waiting in line. I love the anticipation. I love smashing up against the barricade, try to hold his hand, making sure I'm front row, being surrounded by people who are crying at the same songs I'm crying at. Like, I love all of it. And it's such a huge part of my life that might not be there anymore, which is a weird thing to say at 36.
No,
like,
it's
I'm not
totally,
14.
It's totally legitimate. It echoes a feeling that I had. Nothing is forever. Everything ends.
Yes.
What it is, April, it's the first noble truth of Buddhism, which is that to live is to suffer. Suffering is inevitable for all human beings as long as they labor under the delusion that things can be permanent, when in fact, nothing is permanent. Your life is composed of a series of systems. Your culture, your relationships, your physical body, they're all systems. And systems have one thing in common. They all begin, grow, flourish, decay, and die. Everything, without exception. You can be a good Christian, a good Jew, a good Muslim, a good Scientologist, make all the right moves, do all the right things, but your dog is still going to die, your parents are going to die, you're going to fuck up your marriage, your girlfriend's going to your kids are going to grow up and not call you as much. And you can, you can sit in your nice house and not sleep for 3 days and cry into the cats and jack off till your dick hurts. Or you can man up, put on your boots, and work towards achieving Zen. No, I know. Zen is when you abandon the concept of the past and the future and embrace only the moment. If you can free yourself from the events of the past, which is dead, and your expectations of the future, which is fantasy, and embrace only the moment in which you are alive, by freeing yourself from the tyranny of all of those wants that you have, then you can achieve a state of Zen consciousness, which leads to bliss. But of course, by its very nature, it won't last.
I've never heard of a better place to stop a podcast in my life.
It's true. So you want to start recording?
Barbecue, barbecue, barbecue. Our barbecue is prepared especially for you.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Gould. We barely try.
The Dana Gould Hour. Listen all the time and give us all your money. That's all we ask. This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
So everybody enjoy your sandwich.